force into that to set a precedent for themselves about future guaranteed dollars based on conduct detrimental to the Bengals. That is a pretty generic term. And you got Trey Hendrickson that's saying he is dug in and will absolutely not play on this contract until they get a new one. They cleared up some cap space by releasing Jermaine Pratt, almost $6 million of cap space cleared up. So we'll see what happens with that. But there's some interesting things going on around the league because mandatory minicamp, there are 3 guys that are names that are skipping mandatory minicamp for their particular teams. Trey Hendrickson, TJ Watt is not there in Pittsburgh, and James Cook. And it's a pretty ominous report from Adam Schefter on James Cook. He's put his house up for sale. He is disassociated with the Buffalo Bills and will not play on his $5 million contract this year, says James Cook.
I'll play on a $5 million contract. You know what? I'll do it. I'll do it.
You know what? Screw that. I'll take half. I'm undercutting Sterling. I'll play this year for
2.4. 2.4.
2.3, that's my final offer. I got a lot of things working. I got a lot of irons in the fire. I don't know that I can go for less than 2.3. Uncle Sam's going to take a big chunk of that.
It depends what my medical bills will be because it's going to be a lot because of how many injuries I will sustain, but you'll get one carry.
Well, no, I'm on the team for 2.3. It doesn't mean they have to play me. They would be dumb to play me at running back. That would be stupid. They've got Ray Davis. Why would they play me?
True.
You've got what, Tyler Johnson? Is he on that team too still?
Hey, Jason, go in there. Third down. Pass protect here now, okay? Go in there.
Yeah, not happening. Not happening. I'm not really sure what what you want me to do, all right? I don't
Give
have
your body.
Look, I don't have the strength in pass pro, but I make up for it for not even being willing to put my body in front of that guy. So
you run the other way.
Blow the whistle. Blow the whistle. It's like Necessary Roughness, the old movie. Blow the whistle. 913-912-4810 is the text line. We'll talk with Adam Teicher. We'll talk some NFL football, some Chiefs football with Teich. We will get his thoughts on Phase 3 OTAs. We'll hear from the Chiefs coming up on Thursday. Next week is their mandatory minicamp. We'll see if Trey Smith is there for that one. So we'll talk with Adam Teicher about that, some other things with the Chiefs. Simmons, Rice, Brett Veach. A few other things I want to bring up with Adam Teicher. Les Norman coming up at noon, breaking the norm. We'll talk some baseball with Les Norman. We'll talk some Jack Caglione. We'll talk some Major League debuts. Last night, borrowed cleats, borrowed gloves. And Denzel Clark, who continues to flash the leather, and a couple of the best catches I've seen in my life happened in the last 5 days. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, so 5 days, is Bobby Witt's Superman catch, and then Denzel Clark's suspended over the wall, then rolling over on his hip on the wall, and leaping back to his feet on the warning track. I mean, the athleticism just to do that is off the charts. Then to track a baseball. Like, come on, man. Like, anybody that's ever played baseball, running and tracking the baseball, so you're running, you're tracking it, you're jumping, you're holding onto the wall, and then you're reaching out and catching it. It's just stupid athleticism, stupid ability and skill by obviously we know that Major League Baseball players have a lot of skill, but it ain't easy to play outfield. Kerry Robinson climbed the wall for it to land on the warning track. We played that when Chase Mydra dropped the ball on his head.
Yeah.
When he dropped the pop-up that hit his head, we played all of the different bloopers for the Royals because that happened to be against the White Sox, and Chase Mydra dropped the ball for the White Sox. We've seen some bad things happen. We've seen some guys' inability to track baseballs. And Denzel Clark in center field is just a blast to watch play.
That was one of the greatest catches, and that's not hyperbolic. That was, in my mind, top 5 defensive plays I've ever seen. It surpassed, in my mind, I always loved watching Carlos Beltran do it. We actually had one frame for my dad for like Father's Day one year. This is a long time ago, obviously, when Carlos Beltran was like 2 steps up, brought it back in. And we had that one framed because it was such an amazing catch.
Yeah.
And this topped it. I mean, this is one of the if you've not seen it, look it up because Wow.
It's best robbing of a home run. One of the best robbing of a home runs we've seen.
I mean, I think it was going 10 feet away. Like,
It was an absolute. It's one of those things where sometimes you jump up and catch, and it's like, would that have hit the top of the wall?
Yeah.
Would that have gone over? Like, I don't know. That one was a few feet over the wall.
if you're a hitter, you're like, that's not really even a wall scraper, man.
Shanuel was like, really? He's rounding first, and he was pissed.
Yeah.
He didn't even tip his cap. Like, sometimes you'll see a player that's like, you know what? Respect, man. Tip your cap. He was like literally pissed.
He's like, you're a bleep. Seriously,
Really,
man.
dude? Really,
Come on.
dude? You've made 2 of those catches in the last week. You couldn't let me have my home run? Come on, dude. It's ridiculous. Then come talk to me. All right? He ain't going to rob Jack Caglione because he's not going to be able to go 450 to be able to bring that thing back, okay? You can't run up to the fountains and rob the
440,
baseball.
though, I don't know, man.
440, it may not even get out at Kaufman sometimes. It feels like you can hit one 440 and it lands at the warning track. Going to the mound, taking on Noah Cameron, and, you know, we watched Lorenzen maybe pitch for his spot in the rotation on Sunday. We'll see what happens with Noah Cameron and hopefully his continual dominance with his .85 ERA. I mean, he's almost a run less in ERA than Max Fried, who's got a 1.78 ERA. Max Fried has been awesome, and Noah Cameron's like, I will see your sub-2, and I'll raise you almost a full run, a sub-1 ERA. But he's got his work cut out for him with the Yankees lineup, certainly.
Yeah.
Coming up tonight, Aaron Judge is on an absolute heater. It's been a long time since we've seen a player do this, and really, I don't know the last time we saw a player do this. Maybe
Barry Bonds.
Maybe Barry Bonds.
Oh, 04 Barry Bonds,
Yeah.
probably, basically. And then outside of that, you're talking. I mean, even like
Tony
Babe
Gwynn-
Ruth was
Tony Gwynn batted what, 390 something, but that wasn't the home runs and the slug that we're seeing from Aaron Judge.
396,
396.
23 home runs,
That's what.
55 RBIs, slugging 771 is what Aaron Judge is right now. I mean, this is
I thought you were actually giving me Tony Gwynn's numbers. I'm like, really? That was what he had.
no.
And that year-
396, 23 home runs, 55 RBIs, and slugging. Slugging, not OPSing, slugging 771. I mean, what Aaron Judge is doing, and you know me, I love to rip and hate on the Yankees and all that stuff. This is, I mean, you're talking history of history. You're talking Barry Bonds, the height of Barry Bonds, coupled with you're going back to the early 1900s.
Give me the home runs and RBIs real quick.
23 home runs, 55 RBIs.
Okay, so Tony Gwynn, because when you said that, I'm like, really? That was Tony Gwynn's numbers? That doesn't sound right for Tony Gwynn. The 396 sounded right, but not the other ones. In 94, Tony Gwynn batted 394.
Okay.
And he hit 12 home runs and 64 RBIs. So when you were at 23, I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah,
like
you're
Tony,
like, wow, he really-
Tony Gwynn never got to 20 in his career home runs. There's no way he had 23 that year. Boy, that's an amazing year, man.
Really bulked up for that one
Yeah.
season. Well, I mean, he did kind of bulk up, I guess,
Batted-
towards the end.
Batted 394 and finished 7th in the MVP that year. Got on base at 454. Tony Gwynn got on base almost half the time he was at the plate. That's just so absurd and just so stupid. But Aaron Judge, what he's doing is just absurd right now. And, you know, Bobby Witt his numbers are down from where they were a year ago. Now, leading the league in doubles, I think we're all of the mindset that as the weather heats up, those doubles will eventually turn into home runs.
By the way, sorry, Aaron Judge is getting on base at 493.
Is that all? So half the time?
Half the time.
Yeah, but you know what he's doing the other half? Not getting on base.
Getting out.
Yep, getting outs. So
Noah Cameron. Come on,
there you
baby.
go. Just don't face him the third time through the order. That's what we heard. So the first 2 times through the order, Aaron Judge doesn't get on base, and then get Noah Cameron out of there because you don't have to face him the third time. Because if you face somebody the third time through the order, they hit home runs. Every single person. You can't get an out if you face somebody the third time through the order. It's impossible to actually record an out if you face somebody the third time through the order. That's what I've learned.
In fairness against lefties,
4, 5, 6.
he does have an OPS of 1.537 against lefties. He's slugging 978 against lefties. So, Noah Cameron.
You know what? Intentional walk. First inning. IBB. First inning. Will we have a Barry Bonds bases loaded intentional walk? Remember that?
Yeah.
The Barry Bonds, 1's better than 4. Hell, we talked about it when the Royals would play the Cardinals here at Kaufman and Pujols would just destroy them.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I don't care if bases loaded. I'm walking Pujols. 1 is better than 4. Giving up only 1 rather than giving up 4 or 3 because he's going to plug a gap. Like, you can't get that guy out. Right now, nobody's getting Aaron Judge out. It's an absolute historic season. So the Royals and Yankees tonight, 6 games in the homestand. I feel like 500, I would probably take it at this point, considering this team just went on the road to St. Louis and Chicago and came back 500.
Yeah.
And you're playing the Yankees, and the A's are a scrappy little ball club. You know, the Sacramento A's. Sacramento Vegasland A's. Sacktown thingies are a fine ball club. But that's the position we're at right now, though.
Yeah.
Is where you're sitting here with the 6-game homestand and 3 of those being the A's, and you're going 3-3. I mean, obviously, I would want more, but I'm not going to be upset if they're 3-3 and go, what a disaster for this.
No, it would not be a disaster. It would be
1-5, disaster. 2-4, underwhelming. 3-3, probably what I thought they would be. 4-2, hey, nice, good job. That means you either swept the A's and lost a series to the Yankees, or you took both series. Or you swept the Yankees and lost a series to the A's, whatever. Either way, they don't ask you how, they just ask you how many. So, that's why I was so confused by people complaining on Friday night if the Royals would have beat the White Sox 3-2. Like, real good team beating the White Sox 3-2. Well, they don't ask you how. At the end of the season, they ask you how many. Well, the Royals won 88 games. Yeah, but they beat the White Sox 3-2 that time, so actually they lose a game, and this other team actually makes the playoffs because of that. Just go and get W's, stack them up, see how many you can get. At the end of the season, let the chips fall where they may, but you can't give games away. That's the thing, is if you have a game that you feel like you should win against the Yankees or the A's, whoever, you've got to start winning those games and not having giveaways, because 2 of those last 4 games that the Royals played, 5 games I guess it would be, because the first game of the doubleheader on Thursday felt like giveaways.
Yeah.
3-0, you lose that one. 2-2, you lose that one against the White Sox. You can't have it happen moving forward. Because here's the thing, Sterling. You brought up Jack Caglione for a reason. Why'd you bring up Jack Caglione? Because you're saying, 1, he's ready, but also every game matters at this point.
Yes.
So if he can help you along the way to win a game or 2 from now until the Super 2 status, David Sampson or whatever, then it's worth it, right? Well, if that's the case, if you're bringing him up because it's worth it to do that and pay the extra money, then every single game you are saying from here on out does have more of an impactful meaning, because there are fewer and fewer along the way.
Yeah.
Giving a game away in April is different than what it feels like giving a game away, second half of the season.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think 500, if you go 3-3, if you're going against Max Fried tonight. Like, as great as Noah Cameron's been, if you win, this feels like you're stealing it. I know Noah Cameron's been absolutely phenomenal, but at some point it's the Cy Young favorite versus a guy who's making his 6th or 7th start in Major League Baseball. The A's are interesting. They're 25-42, but they had a stretch where they went 1-20. 1-20.
Yeah.
They won 1 game, lost 20 in a 21-game stretch.
God, I didn't realize it was that bad.
1-20. But outside of that, which is tough to say.
I mean,
outside of a third of their season.
If you take away the 5 interceptions in that game, Steve Bono was perfectly fine in the 95 game.
Very good.
If you take away all of the missed kicks, Lynn Elliott was okay.
So take it as you will. They had the worst stretch, one of the worst stretches in baseball history. Mm-hmm. Yet they can hit a little bit. They have some guys that can hit: Brent Rooker, Lawrence Butler, Jacob Wilson, Tyler Soderstrom, who's slowed down a little bit, but then he's starting to heat back up. Shea Langoliers is a really good hitting catcher.
He's on the
IL now, but
Bangoliers.
But they have some guys that can rake. Their pitching's not great, obviously, but they're also playing in the K now. They have been playing in a very, very small stadium. The home run numbers for Tyler Soderstrom, Brent Rooker, maybe slightly inflated. Jacob Wilson as well. We've talked about that, how some of the underlying metrics of how hard he's hit it don't really match the 8 home runs he has hit. So I actually like this matchup in Kansas City for the Royals against the A's. But I do think 500 should be the standard.
Minimum.
Because I think you should take at least 2, if not 3. We said against the White Sox, but against this A's team right now who has been scuffling, you got to. Yeah. You need to.
By the way, Shea Langolier's sister is a second baseman for Texas Tech in softball. She came. We were watching a couple of weeks ago during the tournament. It was before the Texas Tech and Texas championship. And she comes up to the plate, and we're watching it, my wife and I and my son, and I'm like, Langoliers? I'm like, it's not a very common name. Like, I got to look that up. And it's like, yeah, older brother Shay Langoliers for the A's. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I said, Everett, that's going to be you and your sister one day, you know? You and your sister. He was like, really? I'm like, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm just saying,
Just pump you up.
Just say, cool, that'd be awesome. Yay, one day.
Can't promise that.
One day. Yeah. Dad, you told me when I was 9 that would be me.
Wow, Jason's ruined his life. All of his hopes and dreams.
Thanks a lot. Why are you here in therapy? My dad promised me that I would be a major leaguer. My sister's playing for Texas Tech, but I'm not playing for the A's. Let's talk Salvi. Let's take a time out. We'll talk Salvi. And we'll get into the timeline. And should there be, and when could there be a decision by Quattrero and this coaching staff about the catcher for the Royals right now? We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. So these stats coming from Matthew Lamar at Royals Review. It's an interesting piece that he put together when he was talking about slumps for Salvador Perez. And the point of the article was, is there a Salvi hot stretch on the horizon? You know, we've talked ad nauseum about, can you say it? I'm kind of thirsty.
Underlying metrics.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. For Salvi and whether he's unlucky or not. So in the games he has played this year, and Matthew Lamar talking about slumps that Salvi has had the 3 years prior. You know, what he's doing this year and then looking back at the 3 years. In 2022, he had a 46-game stretch where he OPS'd at 642. Okay, batted 200, got on base at 240. In 2023, for 82 games, he had a 596 OPS. I mean, it was over then, right? It's done. It's over. Salvi's toast. Right? He's terrible. 596 OPS. 2024, he had a 58-game stretch last year where he OPS'd at 654. And this year, he's OPSing at 622, which would be the, out of the four, it puts him at 3 out of the 4 of the last 4 years of the stretches. And here's where I have my worries about Salvi, is sometimes when a player falls off, it can be a cliff. It's not just a slow decline, and it's like, oh, you know, he's not as good as he was last year. Sometimes it's a, oh my goodness, it's bad. And so, is this a 62-game stretch for Salvi, or is there something more going on here? And where I worry about Salvi is if we go back to the beginning of June, Salvador Perez was OPSing 916 on June 1st last year. He was batting 321. He got on base at 385, and he was slugging 531. It was a part of the conversation we were having last year, Sterling, about you got this from Lugo, Reagans is doing this, Salvi, who knows the next time Salvi's going to have a season like this. Look what Bobby Witt's doing. You got to take advantage of this. You got to be buyers, right? You've got to be a team that is going to go and invest and not be sellers and think long term or next year, because you don't know what Lugo's going to look like next year. You don't know what Waka. You don't know what Reagans is going to look like. You don't know what Salvi's going to look like next year. Who knows what these guys are going to play like? You got to take advantage of it right now. June 1st last year to Sunday, it's 163 games, oddly enough. I mean, only one game more so we got a full season's worth of data.
Yeah.
163 games. In that stretch, he's batting .238. He's getting on base at .286. And the biggest issue is that he's only slugging .390. It's a .677 OPS for Salvi in that stretch. So while you can say this is a 62-game stretch where he's slumping, I would say that he ended with a 101-game stretch last year when he went from a 916 OPS to then what he ended up finishing with on the season, which was a 786 OPS.
Sure. Which is still really good overall.
Heck yeah. I'll take a 786 right now. It was the highest of his career since the 48 home runs that he had in 21.
He walked a lot more last year, it felt like.
He did, yeah. He had 44 walks last year, which was the most of his career.
Yeah.
And he's got 11 this year so far. But I think if the Royals coaching staff was not exploring what to do with Salvi, then they are doing themselves and the fans and the organization a disservice. We all love Salvi, right? We'll always love Salvi. 13 should be retired when he's done. Perfectly fine with that. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. We've discussed all of these things. Has one of the greatest hits and moments in Royals history, with the irony of him pulling a pitch that was in the other batter's box down the left field line.
Yeah.
Didn't go with it to poke it into right field. He pulled it down the left field line for a freaking double. But they should be exploring what to do with Salvi. If it means, they've already moved him from 4 to 5. With Jack Caglione on the team, do you slide him from 5 to 6? Or do you start to say, look, we're doing a full split with Freddie? It's 4 and 3 because Freddie's a better defensive player than Salvi. I mean, that's reality.
Agreed.
Freddie's got almost a 2 points of WAR better than Salvi this year through 60 games.
Well, in fairness, because Salvi's played a lot more and his bat's been about equal to Freddie. It's not like Freddie has a 2.5 wins above replacements.
He's got a 1.2, and Salvi's a -6. -0.6, I should say. So it comes to 1.8. It's almost a 2 for Freddie for mean. And you're right. Maybe if you play Freddie more, the 1.2 will slide down. And if Salvi's playing like Freddie, maybe the -0.6 goes up to maybe 0 something if he's playing less and maybe fresher, whatever it might be. But I think if you're getting this from the bat consistently from Salvi, then you're getting a lesser catcher because defensively Freddie is a better receiver. He's better at blocking. He's better at throwing runners out.
Yeah.
I think they should be exploring it right now. And I don't know that we're a week away or anything like that. Because, again, there are 60-game stretches, as, Matthew Lamar pointed out, where Salvi has slumped. So as it gets hot, in a month, is Salvi over the next month going to be OPSing at 900? And we're like, all right, there he is. There's Salvi. Okay, he's swinging at everything, but he's running into it, and the hard hit rate and the barrel percentage and the exit velo is starting to find grass more. And it's not just he's hitting it hard and a fly ball to center field. He's hitting it hard, and it's a ground ball right to shortstop for a double play. Like, now he's hitting it hard, and he's gapping it. All right, he's hitting it hard, and he hit it into the bullpen. He's hitting it hard, and that one got wet in the fountains. Hopefully that's the case with Salvi, because he offers you more from that standpoint than Freddie offers you. But Freddie offers you defense, and if we're going to be – because, look, the wild pitch when Salvi couldn't block it and everybody moves up, like – I don't think for a major leaguer that's all that difficult of a block. Salvi walking over, thinking that, the guy was going to score and walking over to the Royals dugout. And then the guy looks at him and goes, oh, he's walking, and then scores. I love Salvi. We all love Salvi. But I do think we're close to where we may need to examine, do the roles need to be flipped between Salvi and Freddie?
So I think everyone's going to have various opinions on this, and I don't necessarily disagree. And you're not even making a huge point here. You're more or less outlining the. But no. I'm saying you're not picking a side. You're more or less outlining what
the situation is.
The situation is. Where I'm at is, I think Fermin is a fine backup. I think he's a fine backup. I think he is really solid defensively. I think Salvador Perez has actually graded out. Again, there's so many defensive metrics, especially for catchers, that make it very, very difficult to find out. You can always find one that's going to fit your narrative and one that goes against it. Pretty much, that's where I land on defensive metrics, especially with catchers. The ones I'm looking at right now, Salvi is actually graded out in a lot of ways better than Freddie defensively. Not in blocking, though. And that's the biggest issue, and that's one I've noticed with the eye test. And, again, a lot of the numbers, you right there bring that up. A block that we're used to seeing Salvi make in the past, or a block that we know Freddie's going to make, Salvi's not right now. What's interesting is Salvador Perez's framing has been graded out better than Fermin's. It's actually been good this year.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Salvador Perez's called strikes above average is vastly better than Freddie Fermin's this year.
Interesting.
So
I have noticed that Freddie has given up on a number of pitches where it's like you just reach out and your glove goes with it and it was in the strike zone. I've noticed that a few times with Freddie. That was kind of odd that it's like, man, if you give up on it, the umpire's going to give up on it. He doesn't think it's a strike if you don't.
So Perez has actually grown a lot in that regard. When it comes to stealing bases, no one steals against Fermin or Salvador Perez. You look at the stolen bases against the Royals, it's 10. It's like 10 or 11. The next closest is like 36. I mean, it's absurd. No one steals against KC. Pitching staff does a great job, but the catchers also, Fermin and Salvi. So if you look at arm, both are elite in that regards. Or whatever they're doing something great. So it's what do you want? Do you want someone who's been graded out a little better framing-wise, which would be Salvador Perez, according to the ones I'm looking at? Do you want someone who's a better blocker behind the plate, which Fermin has been vastly better in that regard? You look at offense, they've been about the same. I like Fermin, but I feel like some people rate his offense way higher than it actually is. It's almost like Cam Gallagher. Like when Cam Gallagher come in and get a hit, everyone's like, Cam Gallagher needs to play more. And then you see him for an extended stretch, and you're like, oh yeah, that's why he's the backup catcher.
Don't you?
He's a good backup catcher.
Don't you dare.
Fermin's better than Cam Gallagher, but
insult Freddie Fermin like that.
He's much better than Cam Gallagher. But the point remains that anytime a backup player gets a hit, it's always we need to see more of him, and then we see an extended period, and it's like, yeah, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record. The underlying numbers of Salvi are really, really good. Fermin's are really, really bad hitting wise. So if it were me, Fermin has a fine role. I am content with his role. I think that the Royals actually have a good split going on with those guys as it currently stands. I'm just moving Salvi down in the lineup. I'm moving him to what Dylan has been talking about. 6, 7.
Just flipping him and Jack.
I mean, Dylan's been on a heater with his predictions recently. I'm not going to lie. He went, if it were me, I'd put India first, Bobby second, Michael third the next day.
That worked for one day.
The next day. No, but they're still sticking with it.
I mean,
I like it.
Since they made that move, when did they make the Michael Garcia move? Was that the beginning of St. Louis?
It truly, and I don't like to toot my own horn, it was like the day.
It was the next game.
But was it the road trip? So the first game of the Cardinals?
Yeah.
So they're averaging 5.3 runs per game with Garcia batting third.
So there you go, Dylan.
And Jack in the lineup.
That if they're good enough to hit at the top of the order, why does it matter whether it's a lefty or righty?
I agree with that.
If you're a great enough hitter to be at the top of
Well, because if Garcia's a 3-hitter, he can handle the bat and bunt for you, too.
Yeah. But I think that's where I'm at.
He's supposed to be able to handle the bat for you, he just can't.
Well, actually, he's supposed to never bunt if you're the 3-hitter. I get that. Totally understand it. It just when you beat
Lorenzo Cain did it a lot. It what led to a world championship.
That's right. When you've been so beaten down by the Royals offense that you're actually okay.
Yeah.
You actually find yourself completely on the opposite side of what you've always argued. That you find yourself going, the 3-hitter bunting, bleep it. I'm fine with it. That gets a run, whatever. Try it. I don't care. Any port in a storm, man.
Manufacturing runs.
Yeah.
absolute definition. Yeah.
So I guess where I'm at then is you'd have India 1, Bobby 2, Michael 3, Vinny 4, and Vinny's been on an absolute. He's up to 280 now.
AL Player of the Week.
I mean, he had over 500, I think. I think he's like 515 or something. I mean, Vinny's been on an absolute tear. So those 4, yes. I don't know if I want Cags 5 because then you're saying for later in games. For later in games, they were just bringing a lefty to face those two guys. If it's other, difference there, then they might be thinking more. Maybe Vinny sees a righty. Maybe Cag sees a righty versus a lefty late in games. I just don't know where you are able to put that righty in. So that 5 spot's the issue. Because if you leave Cag at 6, Vinny at 4, who's at 5? Because then Salvi goes to 7. Are you moving Drew Waters to the 5th spot? I don't think so.
No, because I'd rather him bat from the left side anyway. So if they're going to bring in a lefty to split it up, then you're moving him to the right side, and no thank you. I know he got a hit from the right side, but I'd rather him bat from the left side because his splits are pretty astronomical.
There's not really a good option, which is why I think Q's in a tough spot. The Royals still need one more bat, even with the calling up of Caglione.
Maybe you put Fermin at 5.
I would still choose Salvi. But the point remains, maybe it's Lofton.
Maybe it's Cam Devaney.
Maybe it's Cam Devaney. Maybe it's Lofton. Because he's right-handed and he's been fine. But I think that 5th spot's the hard one because there's not really a good option the Royals have. So they're just trotting Salvi out there and saying, all right, well, he's the best of a bad situation. Because I do think we all agree Salvi should probably bat 7th. At this point in his career, what he's done. Maybe he gets hot, things turn around, and you move him back up. But right now, with the amount of double plays he's hitting into, the amount of times that Cags is leading off an inning, this is a situation that Q needs to figure out. That's what he gets paid to do, to at least try and figure out the lineup. Again, they've scored more runs, but they could score even more if Salvi wasn't hitting it up into double plays.
The frustration you run into is looking back at the 2023 draft, and some people can call it hindsight. I don't call it hindsight because it was what I was hoping would happen, did not happen. Just as this last year in 2024, I was praying that Jack Caglione would be there. And hearing the quotes from Brian, or reading the quotes from Brian Bridges to Annie Rogers at MLB.com, I thought that was interesting. We could talk about that with Les coming up in the noon hour. But sitting there at number 8, the Royals take a catcher at number 8 in high schooler Blake Mitchell, and they pass on Kyle Teal, the best hitting catcher in the draft, college kid from Virginia. And that was a guy that if the Royals were going to take a catcher, we talked about it a lot. I'm like, man, if they can get Kyle Teal. Now, he's a lefty, so you would have, if you batted him 5th, it'd be lefty Vinny, lefty Teal, lefty Jack, or Jack and Teal flipped. But wouldn't you feel like, I kind of feel like you're about to pass the baton, since Kyle Teal's now up with the White Sox, it'd almost be to the point to where you're saying, is Salvi on the decline, and the next guy to take over at catcher is now moving up. I don't know if they thought that was going to be too soon. So let's not take Kyle Teal because Salvi's not ready to retire. So let's take the high school kid. And when the high school kid's 22, Salvi, it'll be 2026. And Salvi will be ready to retire. And Blake Mitchell, the high school kid with the great bat and awesome defense, comes up and takes over. Now we have our catcher of the future, as opposed to we've got this interesting dilemma of we've got Kyle Teal and we've got Salvi. What do? We moved MJ because of Salvi, and Salvi was mashing at that point. But Salvi's not a spring chicken. He's not a young guy anymore. And, that's going to be one of those to where they better be right about Blake Mitchell.
Yeah.
Because if Kyle Teal comes up and is getting on base and is hitting, and he's not going to hit 25 home runs, he's not going to hit for power like Salvi, but is he a guy that's going to get on base at 360, 370, bat 280, something like that, hit 15 to 20 home runs a year for Teal? It's a pretty damn valuable bat and a guy that plays defense, but you went with Blake Mitchell, who's been injured. And he's been out, and he's played 4 games in this year, which sucks because he's 20 years old, and it's a waste of development so far.
And maybe Carter Jensen gets the first call up since he's a year older. He's in AA right now.
I mean, I'm perfectly fine, but I'm fine if it's Carter. I'm totally fine with that. But looking back at the draft in 23, and maybe that's why they went with Blake Mitchell as opposed to Kyle Teal, if they felt like, well, we've got Carter as a high schooler. And if we take Blake Mitchell as a high schooler, those two can battle it out for who's going to be the catcher moving forward. But if we take Kyle Teal, well, we've just blocked Carter.
Sure.
Because he's going to be more pro-ready because he's a college bat, and college bats have the best hit rate in the draft. Not necessarily hitting, but like hitting on the pick.
Sure.
In the draft, it's college bats. And high school pitchers are the most volatile. High school catchers typically don't stay at catcher unless you're one of the Joe Mauers or something like that. So we'll see what happens. But I do think that's one of them where Blake Mitchell needs to be really good. And it'd be nice if he was up here in a couple of years because right now they're maybe in a dilemma this year and next year to figure out who could be playing that spot unless Salvi gets hot again, and this is a 60-game slump that we've seen the last few years.
I still have a little faith left in Salvi. I know maybe I'm the outlier here.
I've got faith too. It's hope. it's nostalgia. It's all of that stuff. You know?
Well, I know, and mine's not nostalgia. Mine's legit. I think
mine is.
I still think there's a little left in there.
I hope so.
But I don't want to go against what Dylan did because what Dylan did with the top three has been great. But if you actually wanted to switch up what I think could work, you would move Vinny to 3. Right, Vinny 3, Michael 4, then you could put Jack 5 and Salvi 6, and that way late game situation to left right. Which again, I'm also going
the way that Vinny's hitting, I'm fine with him getting more at bats.
That's kind of my point. And Michael's been also raking too. I have no issue with that. So if you want to go with that route, I would be content with saying Vinny 3, Michael 4, Cags 5, and that way Salvi's at least 6, and he's behind Caglione. So that way Cag is now no longer leading off every single at-bat.
Yeah, and if Michael Garcia moves to number 4, then, it'd be great. He can bunt the guys over for a sac fly from Jack Caglione. talk with Adam Teicher coming up for the next hour. Talking some Chiefs football. We'll get back into some baseball. Les Norman will be our guest coming up at noon. We'll be breaking the norm. Looking forward to that conversation. What's it like using a borrowed glove in a Major League Baseball game? I was receiving the baseball from the infielders last night for Little Man's team, tossing it to our coach that's working the fungo because I don't do that. And I was using a borrowed glove, an infielder's glove that's so stiff, and I kept dropping the ball. I'm like, how do you people use, because I was an outfielder, how do you people use these stiff infielder's gloves? Roman Anthony had to borrow a glove last night, and he had that error that took place. Let's talk some football. We do that with Adam Teicher from ESPN Chiefs Insider joining us here in the zone on a Tuesday. Adam, how are you, sir?
Good. Jason, how are you doing today?
I am doing just fine. I appreciate you joining us as always, sir. You'll be able to go out there Thursday for Phase 3 of OTAs, or the last part of Phase 3 of OTAs. Next week is mandatory minicamp. We're seeing some of the stories coming out of mandatory minicamps with players holding out and not showing up. James Cook, Trey Hendrickson, T.J. Watt, Terry McLaurin, all holding out of mandatory minicamp, wanting new contracts. Any issue that you see when we're talking about Trey Smith that these are voluntary? We know that. But it's not like he's missed the voluntary OTAs before.
Nope.
This is one he's missing. So any concern with that? Because we're a little less or a little more than a month away from that mid-July deadline for that franchise tag for them to get a long-term deal done with him.
Yeah, no, it's not so much of a concern now, but let's see what happens next week. And if he's not here next week, then that is, a true indication that he is not happy with the course of this and where things stand. So we'll get a better idea next week. I don't feel like, the linemen, they're not in pads. The Chiefs don't practice in pads this time of year, so it's not essential that linemen be there this time of year, particularly a veteran guy like him. I don't think he's missing a whole lot, and he should be able to show up at training camp, assuming he kept himself in shape and be ready to go right from the start. So that's not a concern with him. But you're right. He's been there before. I mean, this is a new thing for him. So, it's a situation that bears watching, no doubt.
This is, we'll find out next week, so it's just making a guess at this point. Do you think he'll be here next week at the mandatory minicamp?
Yeah, I do. I mean, he's got a contract, right?
Yeah,
and they're subject to fines.
Yeah.
So he's got to be there. I mean, he's required to be there, But as we know, as you said, there are guys around the league who have contracts who aren't at mandatory minicamp. So it wouldn't be a first. It wouldn't be an only. And so we'll see. But no, I do think he will be there, but we'll see.
Do you think there's any chance of it? It doesn't seem like it would be the case with Trey Smith. He signed the franchise tag pretty quickly. Do you think there's a concern, or is there a concern with you that come training camp time that he may not be there if they? Well, I guess by that point we would know if they have a long-term deal. Let's say, I guess it wouldn't matter. Never mind, because either you sign the long-term deal or you're locked into the one-year deal. So there would be no reason for him to skip training camp because he would just get fined with no possibility of being able to sign a long-term deal. So I retract my previous question, Adam.
Yeah, he's not at that point. I don't know what the holdout would be for,
right.
because you're not. There's nothing that can be gained from that.
Yeah.
So I definitely expect him there at training camp.
Yeah, I retract that now that I thought about it as I was asking the question. So there's that. So let me ask you this though: if we're guessing at this point, because Trey Hendrickson is owed $16 million this year, T.J. Watt's making a lot of money this year as well. And those guys are holding out and wanting more money. McLaurin's on the last year of his deal. James Cook's on the last year of his deal. Trey Smith's, $23 million. So it's not a bad contract for 1 year. Do you think this thing ultimately gets worked out? Does your dog think this gets worked out before the deadline passes?
Yeah, Nugget doesn't like your question, so maybe you can phrase it in a different way to please the dog. But yeah, I think it will get worked out. I mean, we're obviously off to a little bit of a rocky start in that regard. I think that you and I talked about at the time when Trey Smith signed his franchise tender so quickly. That's a sign that he didn't feel like that. There was no optimism maybe on his part that there was going to be a long-term deal. So,
right.
And so, I do think that something will get done. The Chiefs, this has been sort of an interesting process. They were prepared during the latter stages of last year to lose Trey Smith. They didn't think they'd be able to afford him, and they sort of pivoted with him at the last minute when they were expecting a salary cap around 270 million, and it came in quite a bit above that, and they're like, okay, now we can pivot and we can hold on to Trey Smith. So you know that there's plans there to keep him and keep him long term. But they got to meet at a price here, and so we'll see if they can get it done.
Yeah, I mean the bargaining power is on the side of Trey Smith. I mean, they trade Joe Tooney. He's got $23 million this year if he just plays on the franchise tag, and that's way more than he's made in his career already. And they're talking about Kingsley moving to guard with Caliendo. Well, you take Trey Smith out of the equation, and now it's like, are you playing Kingsley and Caliendo there with Jawan Taylor that hasn't been as good as you were hoping he would be when you signed him to the contract? So there's a lot of bargaining power, negotiating power on the side of Trey Smith for it to get done in the way that he would like it to be.
Yes, that offensive line looks a lot different with Trey Smith than without him. I mean, last year he was a big piece, but they had veterans and Tooney was there. And so, this year what you'd have is a young guy trying to make his way as a guard in the NFL in Suamatia. You'd have Caliendo at the other guard who was, a work in progress, let's put it that way, last year at guard. And you'd have a new left tackle, whether that's a rookie coming off a torn patellar or Jalen Moore, a career backup. Then you'd have Jawan Taylor, who has been up and down, as we know, during his time with the Chiefs, and then the maybe the best center in the league to anchor the whole thing. So that part of it is good. But the thing goes from, I think, from what could conceivably be a strength of the team, the offensive line, into quite a bit more of a question mark when he's not around.
Yeah. Visiting with Adam Teicher from ESPN, our guest here, Chiefs Insider. Let's talk about what we saw last week. And speaking of that, what potentially could be rookie left tackle. We saw Josh Simmons out there in the team portion, and we got to see Rashee Rice. He was sick the week before, and we heard Patrick Mahomes say he looks like Rashee. And so we see him out there, and quite frankly, he looks like Rashee. Now, pads aren't on and everything, but the way he's cutting and moving looks like Rashee. I'm wondering from your perspective, Adam, which is a more important development for this team? Is it Josh Simmons being there and participating in the team portion, or is it Rashee Rice looking like Rashee Rice?
Yes. That's my answer right there. I don't know how you can quantify how important both of those are, and then, hey, we'll see, particularly with Simmons, we'll see as we go along here. I mean, they're not doing a whole lot out there right now again, so there's not a whole lot of physical demands on an offensive lineman, but I do think that is progress that he's out there, and, looks like he's trending to be ready to go when camp starts. But Rice, I'm still trying to figure out how the Chiefs won 15 games and made it to a Super Bowl without him last year. He was such a key part of what they were doing. He was leading the league in receptions when he got hurt. It's impossible to quantify. I don't think we maybe appreciated how important he was until he got hurt. And now I think we all appreciate how important he is. So I don't know how you can rank one over the other. I think these are two huge things, and if these both work out in the Chiefs' favor, Simmons plays, and he plays up to a level you would expect from a first-round draft pick, albeit one that's a rookie, and if Rice plays and has a full season or something close to it, those are two unbelievably huge developments for the Chiefs.
I'll give you my thought process and why, if we were saying, all right, you got to pick one or the other, even if it's 50.1 to 49.9, that I went Rashee Rice on this. And the reason I went that route is I don't know what Josh Simmons will look like as a pro, what he'll be as a left tackle, even if fully healthy. Obviously, I've got my hope from what he is as a prospect and how good he was at Ohio State. But I know what this offense looked like with a healthy Rashee Rice. And before he got injured through the first 3 weeks of the season, Adam, he was first in receptions in the league and second in yards behind Nico Collins by like 20 total receiving yards. He was, through 3 weeks, small sample size, but he was pacing for what would have been 136 receptions and over 1,600 yards with double-digit touchdowns. And that wouldn't have been a surprise based on how he was used in the offense the first 3 weeks. Like, he was the focal point. We saw in those 3 weeks, Adam, sort of like the passing of the torch from the offense being around Travis Kelce to then the offense being Mahomes and Rashee Rice. And so I went with Rashee Rice because I don't think we could fully quantify in real time last year of what losing Rashee Rice and the impact was to the offense. And we see it now, and a healthy Rashee Rice just changes the outlook of what the ceiling of this offense can be. I don't know what Simmons over Jalen Moore would look like at left tackle.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's my point. If I had to rank, I mean, they're both huge developments, but if I had to rank, I would say I think the Rice development is better for the Chiefs because I like the backup plan for Josh Simmons a little better than what I like the backup plan for Rashee Rice.
Agreed,
I think the Chiefs can survive with Jalen Moore. I think he would do a serviceable job and maybe certainly be an upgrade over what they had at left tackle last season. So yeah, I think that part of it exists, but we've seen what it looks like without Rashee Rice, and it wasn't pretty a lot last year, and he's such a key to what they do. And so I would agree with you that I would rank the Rice development higher, but they're both huge, no doubt.
Do you think this is a way that Brett Veach will continue to build the wide receiver room, in that you've got cap hits of Hollywood Brown at 6.7, Rashee Rice at 1.8, Worthy at 3, Sky Moore at 2, and we'll see if he makes the team or not. Juju at 1.2, Jalen Royals at right at around $1 million for a cap hit. Is that the route you think Brett Veach will take and replenish the wide receiver group in the draft, and as guys get ready for free agency, move on or walk from a big, huge wide receiver contract? Or without Travis Kelce, Brett Veach would say, look, if Rashee Rice is one of the best in the league, we're going to pay him like one of the best in the league, and we're going to keep that with Patrick Mahomes. Because right now, it's a really good wide receiver core that's really affordable. That's really cap efficient with how good this receiving core could be.
Yeah, well, you just hit on it. The Rashee Rice is going to have to change their thinking on that. They're going to have to spend some money on him, and they know that. That's a guy that if they lose him, how are you going to replace him? What reasonably can you do? You know, you can go out and spend a whole bunch in free agency. If you're going to do that, why not sign Rashee Rice? You know, and then in the draft, are you confident you can find a guy like Rashee Rice to do what he does at a cheaper price? So that's going to have to change. You know, I think for now they're content to do this the way they've done. I mean, they still, despite not spending a lot of money right now, they spent some resources. I mean, they spent a second-round draft pick in 2022 on a receiver. They spent a second-round pick on a receiver in 2023. And a first-round pick and a receiver last year. So they've spent some resources. They've done it that way. But when it comes to Rice, they're going to have to change. You know, I think if Hollywood Brown had been prohibitive, if he had been expensive, the Chiefs would have let him walk. There was no way they could fit him in, and you know, he has not proven to the extent that Rice has his value to the Chiefs that way. But with Rice, there's no question they're going to have to break out some cash for him.
Yeah, the Chiefs ranked 26th in cap percentage for their entire wide receiver group in the NFL. They are at 7.2% of their cap as wide receivers. The Bengals are at 20% of their entire cap as wide receivers. Tampa Bay, Miami, Tennessee, Washington, without Terry McLaurin's new deal, as he's holding out, is up there at number 5. But I would say out of the teams that are where the Chiefs are, I like their group for what their price tag comes up to, because maybe the Chargers with Ladd McConkey and the kid from Ole Miss that I forget his name now, that I think are a pretty good 1-2 punch. I'm not a big fan of Quentin Johnston, and he's their main guy. Baltimore's number 3 is DeAndre Hopkins, and I think that's more of a name than anything. Green Bay's nice. Dobbs, Watson, and Reed, and then Matthew Golden that they took. So that's a pretty good group of 4 there, as they're pretty cheap. But the Chiefs with Hollywood, Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy as their top 3 is not too bad. Adam Teicher is our guest from ESPN, our Chiefs insider. Adam, I wanted to bring this up with you because we've talked about a number of players for the Chiefs in this offseason, and what would happen. And we've talked a lot about the secondary, but we've talked a lot about the cornerback position with Trent McDuffie and Christian Fulton, and Noel Williams being added in, and Jalen Watson's health, and Najee and Josh Williams. But at PFF, it's a data point. It's one particular outlet. They have come up with the breakout players, the 2025 All Breakout Team, predicting the next star at every position in the NFL. And they predict that a Chiefs player will be the next star at his position. And it can't be somebody that's already a star. And they went with safety Jaden Hicks as a safety breakout star in the NFL. What do you think of that selection? That it didn't have to be for any team. It was every single team, and you get one pick at each position, and Jaden Hicks was the selection.
Yeah, last week Sterling and I talked about that when you were out. He asked me who my breakout candidate was, and I told him Jaden Hicks. I think
I love it.
You talk about a guy who's not getting talked about a lot around Kansas City. There's some buzz around other positions and other guys. I think that's a guy to keep an eye on. I don't know that he's going to have quite the impact this year, maybe that the Chiefs are used to from their lead safety, I'm talking about Tyrann Mathieu early in his time with the Chiefs, and also certainly Justin Reed during his time with the Chiefs. But I think that potential's there, and I think eventually he will get there. It is very telling that the Chiefs lost a kind of a cornerstone of their defense, a guy who they've really counted on, played every snap, and was a big part of what they did in Justin Reed. And when he left, they didn't make much of an effort to re-sign him, and B, when he left, they did nothing. They re-signed Mike Edwards, but that's not a replacement for Justin Reed. No. So that tells you what they think a lot about Jaden Hicks. And, it might get bumpy a little bit at the start, early in the year. We'll see. But I think that's a guy that definitely could be – we might be talking about him in a few years as having the same kind of impact that Tyrann Mathieu had for his first couple of years with the Chiefs, and then Justin Reed had.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're a week behind you then, because they posted this morning with Jaden Hicks being their breakout next star candidate at safety, being that, and a number of different reasons. Like, I do wonder against the pass, and he's got 3 interceptions, so that's been good. But what they list here is that he had the 3rd lowest rate of any safety at missed tackle, so 2.7% missed tackle rate, which was the 3rd lowest of any safety last year. And 91st percentile of the run stop rate for Jaden Hicks. So we know he does that. We know he can come up and he can stop the run, and he's not afraid to come up and hit and do some of those things. The next level would be, what's he like when he's got to play more in coverage? And again, he's got 3 interceptions in his rookie year. It took Trent McDuffie a few years to even get one. So it's probably annoying for Trent McDuffie that Hicks comes in and has these plays, but it's not like they just fell in his hands either. A couple of them were really good plays for Jaden Hicks. So we know he's going to stop the run. The question would be, what happens if he's out there full time as a safety in needing to be in the passing game too?
Yeah, and that's an area we need to learn more about him. But I think he has that in him, and. Again, I think that sometimes actions speak louder than words, and when the Chiefs just basically waved goodbye to Justin Reed and made no effort to replace him, that tells you a lot that they felt like they had an adequate or better replacement on the roster.
Visited with Adam Teicher from ESPN Chiefs Insider. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk about Brett Veach and maybe league-wide being taken for granted. We'll talk about what that means next. be, and looking at other teams around the NFL, and quarterback gets weighted a little bit more. And no, he was not the person that drafted Patrick Mahomes. That was Dorsey, and executed the trade. Brett Veach, obviously a big part of that draft and championing Patrick Mahomes. But there's another ranking out there of the best GMs in the NFL, ranking the top 10 general managers in the NFL right now. And it's a real shock who number one is in the NFL. I just cannot believe that Howie Roseman was voted number one in the NFL of GMs. That's really surprising. Really surprising.
To the victors go the spoils, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Had the Chiefs won that game, I think that ranking would look a little different.
We'll see. Number 2 in this ranking, Los Angeles Rams, Les Snead. Number 3 in the ranking, Detroit Lions, Brad Holmes. Number 4 in the ranking, Baltimore Ravens, Eric DeCosta. Number 5 in the ranking, Kansas City Chiefs, Brett Veach. What do you think of that? Is that where people look at it and go, it's Patrick Mahomes, I mean, you got Hurts, the Rams had to execute the Stafford trade, the Ravens got Lamar, Detroit's rebuilding the entire, organization and franchise history to try to be in this position. Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, I mean, what more do you have to do if you're Brett Veach if you've got Mahomes?
Yeah, no, I think he meaning Brett Veach, doesn't. A lot of people do look at the situation here and say, well, he's got Patrick Mahomes, who, as you mentioned, he was not the general manager when Mahomes was drafted, and he's got Andy Reid to work with, one of the great coaches of all time, and so I do think that Brett Veach is overlooked, and he's got the rings. Certainly Howie Roseman's got a couple now, but the next 3 guys ahead of him, you mentioned DeCosta and Holmes and Snead. There's a total of 1 Super Bowl championship, right? I don't think DeCosta was their general manager the last time Baltimore won a Super Bowl. So he's got more rings than any of those guys. And the important part is when you talk to people around the league about Veach. I mean, there's a respect for what he does and how he operates. The 2 things about him that I think make him allow him to stand out is, man, he is really decisive. When the Chiefs go ahead and make a decision, I mean, then there might be a lot of internal debate leading up to that decision. But when they make a decision, boy, they really are convicted in it and do what they can to make it work. There's a lot of examples of that. The Tyreek Hill trade was, certainly one of them. I mean, that had to be a hard maneuver. I wonder how many general managers around the league could make that trade. You've got a team that's on the cusp maybe of some great things, and you've got a great quarterback, and you're trading away your best wide receiver who you had every reason to believe still had some reason for, that had some good seasons ahead of him, and they traded him away. I mean, that's a very unconventional move. I think most teams would have just sucked it up and paid him and paid the price that way for Tyreek Hill. But, Brett Veach was pretty decisive once they decided to make that move. And the other thing, and this also ties into the Tyreek Hill trade, is that the Chiefs' ability to pivot is really to take their plan that they talked about and things that they were going to work on, and something changes, and they say, okay, we need to pivot here. We're going to make this work for us. And the Tyreek Hill trade, again, is an example of that. The Chiefs had every intention of signing Tyreek Hill to a long-term extension, and when things the receiver market started to get out of hand, they said, you know what, we need to change the plan. And they did, and they made it work for them. I mean, they didn't just change the plan. They got Trent McDuffie and other things out of that trade and won the Super Bowl the 2 years after that he made that trade. And I think this Trey Smith situation is a little bit different. The Chiefs were planning on losing Trey Smith, and then all of a sudden they feel like they can hold on to him, and they pivot and trade Joe Tooney instead. So, I think those are two of the qualities about him that people don't appreciate but are big factors in what the Chiefs have going here.
Yeah, I think the description in some of these also kind of leads you down a path of some of the thought process. Howie Roseman and what's written about him is just, hey, wins the Lombardi Trophy, all the work he did in the offseason, the draft, the signing of Saquon, all these hits that he's had before, all of these great things. Then you go to Les Snead, and it's how aggressive he is and all these trades that he's made, and look what he's done in the draft. And he's, gone from a team that didn't have first-rounders to turning the organization and all these different units around, and how outstanding it is for Les Snead. Brad Holmes, all of the different hits and the moves and the drafts and the trades and the free agency. Eric DeCosta, look what he's done in the draft and signing Derrick Henry and Kyle Van Noy and trading for Roquan Smith and all of the stuff that he's done as a GM, outstanding. Then Brett Veach, and it goes through, and the first part of it is, his tenure as general manager. Snead, great value, rounds 2 through 6, with the likes of L'Jarius Snead, Trey Smith, Pacheco, Jalen Watson, Chanel Creed Humphrey. The second part of him, but there are some big whiffs. Overpaying Jawan Taylor, draft whiffs, Felix Anudike-Uzama, Sky Moore, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Mecole Hardman, and Wanya Morris. Veach has an all-time great quarterback and coach. Now he needs to find a way to start putting pass catchers and a better offensive line around Mahomes. The entire half of Brett Veach's write-up is about all the negatives that he's done in his career as GM. And it's the first negative of any GM on any write-up. 1, 2, 3, 4 is when you get to 5 with Brett Veach, and the entire second half of it is all about his bad moves.
Yeah, no, it hadn't been perfect, but the good moves outweigh the bad, I think, tremendously. And there have been some misses, but the inability to rebuild an offensive line. I mean, the way they did it after that Tampa Bay Super Bowl a few years ago. I mean, the way they had the 2 longtime tackles were gone, and they had kind of some journeymen filling in on the offensive line to turn it in from what that was to what it became in 1 year was one of the great pieces of work, I think, of recent times in the NFL. I mean, they went from a horrible offensive line to one that was really good with Orlando Brown and Tooney and Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. I mean, that became an unbelievable group, and he did it in 1 year. So I think if you're going to ding him, I don't know how you can say he can't build an offensive line. I mean, that just isn't true. I mean, some of the picks they've had the last couple of years with Wanya Morris and maybe with Suamati haven't worked out the way they'd hoped. But to say he just can't do it is another story.
Yeah. I think you might also be searching if you include and you say big whiffs. And 2 of those big whiffs are Hardman and Wanya Morris, because Hardman in the second round with the wide receivers there, obviously it's not DK Metcalf, but I think Hardman is perfectly fine for what they got out of him in his career as a second rounder. And Wanya Morris was a third-round tackle. I'm not sure how many third-round tackles are starting and playing big roles, and he's been kind of a swing tackle for this team. And, maybe the swing tackle for this team this year or backup right tackle to Jawan Taylor. I'm just not sure. Like, if you want to say FAU, yeah, that is definitely one. Clyde, he had 1,000 yards his rookie year. The injuries may have taken something away from that, but I'm good with it. And second rounder, I don't know how you could put Sky Moore and Mecole Hardman in the same category of whiffs, because those are completely different in terms of production. And so I'm down with that. I'm in agreement with those things. I think it's telling, Adam, that the first 4 it's all positive. Then you get to Brett Veach, and half of his is about the negatives of his tenure.
Yeah.
So I think it's telling how he's viewed.
I do think he is underrated. That people may, and I think this is going to be the way it is. I think when people look back on this era of Chiefs football, 20 years from now or whatever, people are going to talk about A. Reed, and they're going to talk about Patrick Mahomes. They're going to talk about Travis Kelce and maybe Chris Jones and a few other guys. And Brett Veach is going to be far down that list. And I don't think that's fair or that's right, but I think that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah. Visiting with Adam Teicher from ESPN. How much do you put into the weight of, we talked for so many years, like, why isn't this front office being picked apart by other teams and grabbing some of these assistant general managers? And now we've seen it with Tillis and Borgonzi and Poles. How much weight do you put in it if he's continually successful while changing out those particular roles for him as a GM overall? How much does that go into the overall GM work or his status or reputation around the league as a general manager?
Yeah, no, it should. And going back a few years before that, Chris Ballard, too. Now, that was when Dorsey was still here. But still, the Chiefs have been able to pivot without those guys. So, yeah, I think that factors in, no doubt. They've been able to keep this thing running through all of that stuff. And that's a pretty good feather in their cap. I do think that's a factor, no doubt.
Adam Teicher's our guest from ESPN. Last one for you, Adam. We're having people weigh in after we saw Josh Simmons with the team portion last week. So wanted to get your thoughts. If you can go back to draft night when the Chiefs selected Josh Simmons, and obviously we didn't know week 1 was going to be the Chargers in Brazil, but what percentage chance you would have given Josh Simmons starting week 1 for the Chiefs the night they drafted him versus we see him with the team portion last week and let's say June 10th, what percentage now maybe do you give Josh Simmons starting week 1 against the Chargers?
Yeah, I think it was maybe 50-50 at the time. Andy Reid was pretty convicted, if you remember, on draft night, that he was going to be ready to go, that Simmons was going to be ready to go. So, he usually doesn't talk that way unless he feels pretty good about something. So, that's one thing in the favor. I also felt like, okay, this was a serious injury. The guy dropped in number 32 in the draft for a reason, and that maybe there was more to this than the Chiefs were hoping there was. But now I'd say it's maybe 70 or 75% that he's going to be starting on opening day. And that again, that's a great development for the Chiefs because their best lineup is with Josh Simmons at left tackle. That's I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's not to say that Jalen Moore can't do an adequate job, but he's at his best, he's not going to be Josh Simmons. So that's a huge development, no doubt.
Well, I think there are dreams that if Kingsley Suamataia can hold down the left guard spot and play well at that spot, and Josh Simmons is healthy and is playing at a level that they hope he can be, I think there are dreams and visions that Andy Reid and the offensive coaching staff are having about the athleticism on the left side of the offensive line, getting out and pulling and screen game and outside zone and things like that. They might be waking up with hearts for eyes thinking about the athleticism with those two guys, if they can both do it, though.
Yeah, well, I talked about this with Seren last week. With regard to Suamataia, how many times have you seen a guy just sort of flame out at one position? And he flamed out quickly. And all of a sudden become a adequate or better player at another position. You don't see that very often. Now, I'm not saying Suamataia can't do it. He's only 22 years old. I'm certainly not going to give up on the guy. But boy, that one. I think the Josh Simmons thing. They have a reason to feel pretty good if he's healthy, how he's going to play. The Suamataia thing maybe is a little more. Right now, I put that one more in the wishful thinking category. Not saying he can't do it or predicting he won't do it, but. Boy, I got to see a lot more from him.
We'll see what happens. Adam Teicher, we can always see a lot more from you, from ESPN Chiefs Insider. Adam, you're the man. Appreciate it, sir. We'll catch up soon.
Good stuff, Jason. Talk to you next week.
Absolutely. There's Adam Teicher from ESPN Chiefs Insider and covering a lot of ground there with him. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back, and I do want to talk a little bit more about the ranking there. It came out Sunday, but we didn't get around to it yesterday, so I want to talk about it here. We'll talk with Les Norman coming up at the top of the noon hour. Todd Lebo joins us in the 1 o'clock hour. More Zone right after this. Thank you to Adam Teicher from ESPN joining us, breaking down the Chiefs. Phase 3 wrapping up this week of OTAs. Thursday will be the media session, open session that they'll be able to watch. And then we'll hear from Andy Reid and select players at 1 o'clock on Thursday. And then next week is the mandatory minicamp. That's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We'll hear from Chiefs players and Andy Reid. Andy Reid at least once, but every single day with the mandatory minicamp, be there at the mandatory minicamp. Certainly it'll be of interest if Trey Smith shows up to that. He was not at the voluntary, and he's been at voluntary stuff before. Not at voluntary this year. He has signed his contract. He signed the franchise.
I don't know why he would
miss the mandatory. I can't imagine.
That would be, if you sign the franchise tag, that to me screams, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, but also it's like you sign a franchise tag because you feel like you're not really that close to a deal, and I'm at least going to get $23 million this year, so I'll sign the franchise tag right now.
It is. I know the professional athletes and how much more money and value they bring in. It is absolutely hilarious, though, in my mind, when you see guys like T.J. Watt holding it. He's like, you know what? I don't want to play for $28 million this year. $28 million, that's it? No.
It's like all I'm getting is $16 million in cash this year. I'm not going to, and I will use to play this year if all I'm going to get is $16 million.
T.J. Watt, $28 million. Now I'm going to hold out. Like, man, I mean, no, again, good for you. You're valuable.
If someone was worse at their job than you but making more, and you had the chance to use that negotiation.
I don't disagree. I mean,
the problem is Myles Garrett's getting 40.
Yes.
This is the second time the Browns have damn near reset on purpose. It feels like marketing something. It's like they did it for the Bengals when they were trying to pay Joe Burrow. It's like, oh, let's give Deshaun Watson $230 million.
Yeah.
And now let's give Myles Garrett. Now we're going to screw over the Steelers.
Yeah. I just always find it like we always talk about it, and I feel like we just gloss over it. But when you really sit back and think about it, it really is hilarious. Like, you know what? 28 mil, not enough. Nope, not me.
No, thank you.
No chance am I going to play for 28 million. Need way more.
The list at Yahoo with Matt Johnson, we didn't get into it yesterday. A lot of stuff that we talked about yesterday, but wanted to save it for our conversation with Adam Teicher there. And the top 10 GMs in the NFL. And it just, to me, it's, I don't know, annoying, I guess, because you see the work that Brett Veach has put in and why the Chiefs are winning when you're that close to it as we are, and you see the turnover of the roster and the moves that were made. Tyreek Hill with that draft class, they had to pivot and trade Joe Tooney when Trey Smith all of a sudden became more available with the salary cap increasing and things like that. And we'll see what this draft class can look like. But I sort of feel like there's just Brett Veach has Holmes and Reid, so therefore, look at these other GMs that are doing all this great work. And so, I don't know if you saw this right.
So, I'll tell you what I know,
Okay.
and that way I think this would be a little interesting conversation. Okay, I know he's fifth.
Yeah.
I know he's fifth.
Right.
I know that's dumb. I know it's asinine. I know I'm
You just keep it at ass.
I'm already 2 scoops of ass.
5 of them. 4 scoops of ass. Or 3. If somebody wants to argue Howie, that's fine, whatever.
So
Howie was brilliant enough to give away a draft pick to get a guy he was going to get anyway.
my thought is, if you want to put Howie Roseman above Veach because he's doing it with Jalen Hurts versus Mahomes, I'll entertain it. I'm not going to argue with you. I think Howie Roseman's phenomenal. I think Brett Veach is phenomenal. I'm not going to argue because I do think Howie's a really good GM.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to complain. You put, let's say, Brad Holmes for the Detroit Lions. Because I've not seen the list, okay? So I have no idea if he's even in the top 5. I feel like Brad Holmes for the Lions has done a really good job of rebuilding that organization.
You just like the last name.
I love the last name, Holmes. I mean, that's, of course, the number one reason.
Brother from another mother.
But I can see if you're saying he's done more with less because if he had to rebuild this, he wasn't necessarily getting it in a great spot, and he had to retool that. I kind of disagree with you, but I'll at least understand the philosophy behind it. I cannot for the life of me think of 2 other GMs that would even be in the same realm as Roseman, Veach, and Brad Holmes. I think Holmes is the guy that gets a little left out sometimes in these conversations. To me, it's always Veach and Howie, and I like throwing Holmes in there. I can't think of two other GMs in that same category.
Dylan, do you know what the list is of the top 5? When we said that Brett Veach came in at number 5 in the GM rankings. Okay, so we know number 1 is Howie. Sterling said that his brother Brad Holmes is the only other one that he could think of that would be in the top 5 ahead of Brett Veach. He disagreed, but he could understand. Or that was one that would pop up. But 2 others that would be there. Who would they be that would be there? That would be
Brad Holmes is there, correct?
Brad Holmes is there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Brad Holmes is there. Do you have any guesses, Dylan, as to another GM or even the interns back there? Another GM?
You already said Les Snead?
Not yet.
I'll say Les Snead.
Les Snead is actually number 2 behind Howie Roseman.
He hadn't had a first-round pick in what? Mm-hmm. Before this last year, he hadn't had one for 3 years, and they have been.
That was
their defense.
That was his own choosing, though.
That is true, and they won a Super Bowl. But
and they got themselves a Super Bowl, and he's made some really good draft picks with the first rounders that he's had, and some guys later on in the draft too. Brad Holmes is number 3, so that means there's another GM between Brad Holmes and Brett Veach. Anybody want to throw darts as to who it might be?
I was thinking Ravens.
Well, why don't you think that?
Yeah, I'll say
Eric DeCosta,
yeah.
Baltimore Ravens, number 4, and then Brett Veach, number 5.
Well, because the affinity that the NFL has for the Ravens,
It's unbelievable.
it's unbelievable. A team that has collapsed in the playoffs, that you know how the story is going to play out. Every single year, we know what the Ravens story is going to be. They're going to overperform. They're going to look really fun offensively. Lamar's going to be great.
And Lamar ain't even in minicamp right now. So, by the way, he's not at the voluntary stuff. That's your quarterback because he would like an extension. So they're working on a contract extension, but, you know.
And you already had this conversation 2 years ago with him.
Yep. And you tried to trade him.
Yeah, nice. Way to piss off your quarterback now twice in 3 years. That really deserves you to get you in the top 5. The Ravens are a well-run organization for the most part. I think that they are a good team.
Eric DeCosta is also living off the, good name of a man named Ozzie Newsome.
Yes.
Yep.
So, and, he's done a lot since Ozzie's retired, but he's, learned a lot as well from Ozzie.
I literally almost said Ozzie Newsome as a joke to say that is he number 4 instead of Eric DeCosta.
Well,
yeah.
Because...
Well, and this is where I think the reputation and the way that it's viewed around the league comes in. So... He mentions that Eric DeCosta had big shoes to fill as the Ravens GM in succeeding Ozzie Newsome, and then talks about what he's been able to do since 2019, right? He doesn't mention Harbaugh in this write-up. But here's where I think the reputation and the way that Brett Veach is viewed by some around the league. Howie Roseman, the entire write-up on Howie Roseman is about everything that he's done and how he's built that roster and the draft picks and Saquon and all his previous hits with Dickerson and Hurts and Juergens and all of these different players that he had and building that roster, right? Okay. Then you go to Les Snead and the architect behind the Rams' success and trading for Matt Stafford and, drafting these different guys and all these late round picks that have succeeded, and he's gotten to 2 Super Bowls because of that, and they won a Super Bowl there. Okay.
I will grant they went all in. They got one, and we thought they were going to take a massive step back and be horrible, and they've been in contention. So I will at least say he's damn good.
So we're 2 for 2 with the entire write-up being positive.
Okay.
Number 3, Brad Holmes. All about how he's just turned around the organization. Jared Goff trade. Holmes has built one of the 3 best rosters in football. He deserves all the credit he's receiving, if not more. That's the way that he ends it with Brad Holmes, all positive. Eric DeCosta, Baltimore Ravens. We mentioned that all he's done is demonstrate why he's one of the best GMs in the league after taking over for Ozzie Newsome. All of these different successes, signing Derrick Henry, Van Noy, trading for Roquan Smith, blah, blah, blah. Outstanding general manager. DeCosta has been an outstanding heir to Newsome. Brett Veach. Ranking a 3-time Super Bowl champion as the 5th best general manager in the NFL certainly might seem absurd. Promoted to the top gig in 2017, it came after Veach, quote, discovered Patrick Mahomes and encouraged Kansas City to draft him. During his tenure as general manager, Snead Veach, he meant to say, has found great value in rounds 2 through 6 with the likes of L'Jarius Sneed, Trey Smith, Pacheco, Watson, Chanel, and Creed Humphrey.
Also 7, by the way.
Yeah, that's half of the write-up. Here's the second half. Now, mind you, what the first 4 write-ups were, right?
Yeah, all positive.
Here's the second half now, almost split right in the middle. There are some big whiffs. Overpaying Jawan Taylor, along with draft whiffs on Felix Udike-Uzama, Sky Moore, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, McCole Hardman, and Wanya Morris.
Hardman and Morris seems absurd.
I agree. Veach has an all-time great quarterback and coach. Now he needs to find a way to start putting pass catchers and a better offensive line around Mahomes.
What about the Ravens, who cannot find pass catchers for the life of them?
Doesn't that perfectly...
Give them a pass.
But doesn't that perfectly encapsulate the view of Brett Veach around the league, or by some?
Who's this guy?
It's Matt Johnson with Yahoo. But
I'm going to give me his address.
I will. I'll give you his address. It's fine.
4-4 was the guy on NBA TV. It was a
Yes,
soft lane around.
That's right. That's right. A young fella, don't become. You're the one up here crying, poor and
destitute.
destitute. That's right. But you've got positive. Brett Veach, he's got an all-pro, all-time quarterback and head coach in Andy Reid. And he's done some nice things in the draft. But look at all the ways he's failed.
Matt Johnson, I have a certain lack of skills.
Yeah. I don't think Matt Johnson is alone in that. Like, I think Howie Roseman is number 1. And then it's like, yeah, well, Brett Veach has Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. So therefore, they're completely turning over the roster over these 6-7 years is just dismissed. And Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com and First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Royals in action tonight against the Yankees. First of a 3-game set. Noah Cameron on the mound against Max Fried. And Jack Caglione making his home debut. The debut coming up tonight for Jack. See if one gets jacked up tonight. Maybe into the Fountains water ball. Jacked up! See if that happens tonight. We're jacked up to talk to Les Norman. Breaking the Norm, again, presented by TruckMovers.com and First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Les, welcome into the show. How are you, sir?
Fantastic, fellas. Great to be here. I will be in attendance for that first jack tonight. I'm excited.
I am jealous of that, man. I am really jealous of that.
Are you jacked up?
I would be jacked
I
up
am
if I was
jacked
going.
up.
Oh, man. Are you? Do you got some dugout suite tickets? Are you sitting in the dugout with Jack? Are you, crown? You sitting up top in the by the lights? Give away your position
actually,
so people can bother you.
They're going to let me work the scoreboard tonight, so I get to put up whatever I want.
Are you actually going to dress up as Pasquatch tonight and walk out there above the Hall of Fame?
I cannot confirm or deny that I have been dressing up as Pasquatch, but I can't confirm or deny it.
I'll recognize that strut anywhere from Les Norman. I've said it the whole time. That guy walking out there like that Pasquatch walk, that's Les Norman's walk. By God, that's Les Norman's walk.
Yep.
I knew it all along. Les Norman is our guest. All right, let's talk about it. Jack's first week in the big leagues. He's played 6 games. What's your assessment of what we've seen from Jack Caglione as a major leaguer?
It's a great question. I love his balance. I love his approach. He looks like he's 12 years old. It's unbelievable, this dude, man. But he's got big league at bats all the way through. I know that a lot of people in the media and fans are saying, "Oh, it's up too early," and he's not going to hit. This is a mistake. But I mean, the first game alone, his first at bat, he gets robbed of a double in St. Louis, and then I think his third at bat, second at bat, he smokes one to the left side, but he hits it right to Arenado, or at least one step away from Arenado, who smothers everything. So, he went 4 for 4 to raise his average to 240, but if a lot of those other balls he hit hard right at people or he got robbed would have dropped, he'd be hitting over 300, and then the people would say things differently. So I'm not surprised of his 4 for 4 game. I'm not surprised that he hits the ball hard. He's not overwhelmed. He's played good right field. The only negative I would say is I feel bad for him that even though he was 4 for 4 and doing well, in the first 5 games, he had to lead off an inning 9 times because Salvi keeps making the third out. So switch him in the lineup. I know that's going to be maybe another topic, but another point, but that was really frustrating for me, and I think it contributed a little bit to that because he's not a leadoff guy. And when you're in the on-deck circle, you expect to get ready to hit. You're mentally preparing, you're physically preparing, getting loose, getting ready to go, and then the air's taken out of you. You shut it down, you go play defense, and then you're trying to regain all that momentum you had in the on-deck circle. So there's something to be said for a guy that's not a leadoff hitter that he has to lead off so much. Other than that, I've been pleasantly surprised.
It's a good point there about the leadoff part. And if you take it a step further with the 9-10 times he's been a leading off an inning, it would be up to 12 or 13. Let's go 12. So we go more on the conservative side, even though that sounds crazy. It would be 12 at-bats leading off an inning if they had to play an extra inning or he wasn't pinch ran for, meaning twice Salvi's made the last out of what would be the Royals at bat in that game, whether it was in a win or a loss. Salvi was the last one up at the plate in the 9th inning with Jack on deck, or Salvi had batted, Jack had been taken out of the game for a defensive replacement, and then the leadoff was the guy who was going to be who had taken Jack Caglione's spot. So there are actually a couple of more times he would have been batting leadoff because Salvi had made the last out. It's just the game either ended or he was already pulled for the game for a pinch runner or a defensive replacement late in the game. So, yeah. I mean, it's rough. It's a good point about standing on deck and then having to go back.
If Salvi's hitting the ball hard in those at-bats, that's fine. if he's hitting it right at people or he's swinging at quality pitches and striking out. But if you go back and look at the majority of those, except for maybe the 2-run home run he hit in Chicago on the last day, he's swinging at balls that aren't even making it to home plate. He was swinging at balls that were a foot outside. He was swinging at balls that were over his head. And then he would take pitches right down the middle. So he looks lost right now. And look, I love Salvi. He's been one of the most incredible players that Kansas City's ever seen. He's Salvi. But when you're struggling, do you make a lineup out of your heart, or do you make a lineup out of what's best for your team? And right now, Salvi should be hitting like eighth. It's been a big struggle. And do I think he should be in the lineup? Yes, because he needs to catch, and if he plays first base or DHs, he does have that kind of pop. But when you continue to make Jack lead off, I liked it better having people on base because that divided the mind of the pitcher. And when the pitcher's divided, he's going to probably make more mistakes. It doesn't guarantee it, but it puts a little more pressure on him. I wasn't distracted by guys that could steal bases while I was up to bat or, just that were on the field. And I didn't necessarily feel pressure. I always felt like pressure's on you. And I'm going to wait for you to throw me something good, whereas Salvi, regardless of the situation, is just like, well, I'm just going to swing at whatever you throw. And so I think that's been a little tougher on Jack, but like he's done, he's going to adjust no matter where he's in the lineup, and I think he's going to have a great season.
Well, there were a couple things that were frustrating on Saturday. He had the 4 strikeout game. The Royals lose 4-1, and where I think the struggles of Salvi were sort of accentuated. It was second and third with nobody out after a wild pitch with Mike Hill at second, Vinny at third, and Salvi was up there, and it was a 3-2 pitch that he swings over the top of for strike 3. And now there's 1 out with second and third. Jack Caglione hits the ball back to the pitcher. There's 2 outs. Drew Waters strikes out. They get no runs out of second and third, nobody out. And in that game, Salvi has 4 strikeouts. And this coming from Josh Kaiser. In Saturday's game alone, he saw 20 pitches. Only 6 of them were registered in the strike zone, and he had 4 strikeouts. I mean, I would never throw him a strike.
No, you don't have to.
Yeah. And the frustrating part about that at bat, Les, and you would know this as the scout that's there, scout on a pitcher and what the pitcher has, the 3-2 pitch became a little more frustrating for me with Hauser on that Saturday with second and third, nobody out, because there isn't a pitch that Hauser throws that starts low and away to a righty and is a ball to strike. He's got strike to ball movement, but he has no ball to strike that's low and away. And that ball started out as a ball low and away, meaning there's 0 chance with his stuff that it will be a strike. And Salvi swung over the top of it in the dirt low and away. Like that was just, I'm swinging no matter what. 3-2, he's gonna give me one. He doesn't want to load the bases here, so I'm swinging. And it wasn't even close to a strike. And once it starts out as a ball, Les, and he goes and has the home run the next day, which is good. But that at bat told me a lot about where Salvi's at right now, Les. And I was looking forward to talking to you about that particular at bat, because if you're locked in, and he also had a walk on Saturday too, like took a pitch and was like, wow, he did not swing at that pitch and took a walk. So that was surprising. But coming off of Saturday's game, what is that as a guy who's been in the box a lot, that what a pitcher has, and that thing's low and away, and it's starting out as a ball, and for a fact he's got nothing. It's not Brady Singer. It's not something like that that's going to work back over the plate. It's low and away, and it's going to stay low and away, any of his stuff, and you still swing over the top. What does it tell you about where a player's mind is right now?
Let's also back up and say that hitters should know that from hitters' meetings, but especially somebody like Salvi, who's a catcher and a hitter, who learns that stuff in hitters' meetings and how you're going to pitch when you work with pitchers. I mean, nobody's better at that than Salvi and his pitching staff. And so when you're both of those and you don't realize that, then obviously there's a mental thing and there's a head case thing going on with Salvi. I mean, in that situation, it's almost as if he is, or any situation lately, it's almost as if he's saying in his mind, my wife tells me a lot of times, you don't have to say everything that you think. Like, what a great lesson that is. And I wish she wouldn't have to tell me so much, but she's right. So oftentimes when hitters that are struggling get something in their head and they manufacture it, like, he's going to throw me a strike here, And so then you just automatically jump on it no matter what. How many times have we seen a 97-mile-an-hour fastball in the inside corner over the years and Salvi hammer it into the left center field bleachers 400-some feet away? So he has proven in his 13 years in the big leagues that he can turn on fastballs, and he's got power and he can hit the ball anywhere, as well as just get a bat on the ball and bloop it because he's been a good bad ball hitter. But when you're thinking the way he's been thinking, where you're going to throw me a strike, so I'm just going to swing, even the worst of hitters oftentimes don't swing at balls that are a foot outside or in the dirt. I mean, I'm not talking the nasty curveball or slider that bounces in front of the plate. I'm talking on balls that never had a chance to be a strike, and he swings at them anyway. That's the frustrating part.
Yeah. And his pitch shape doesn't have anything that will show you ball to strike in that area. It'd be different if it was like, he's coming back, he's throwing that change up, and it looks like it's right over the plate, and then it dives away, and you're like, well, what am I going to do? I tried. I thought he was going to throw me a cookie, as Rex would say, but that wasn't the case. Because I didn't think he wanted to load up the bases for Jack Caglione with nobody out in this situation. But, I tweeted it out, and I still feel this way. If Salvi never swung the bat, I think he would walk half the time.
Absolutely.
If he just went up there and, check swing every once in a while, ooh, I was almost going to swing at that. So you make the pitcher think that you're about to swing, but I don't think anybody's going to throw him 3 strikes before they throw him 4 pitches low and away.
Right. If I'm Salvi right now, I am only swinging at a ball that's right down the middle, because they're not going to throw him strikes. And then eventually they're going to say, okay, Salvi's in the mode now where he's not swinging and he's walking too much, so we need to get ahead. And then they're going to start throwing in fastballs, and we know what he can do with those when they're strikes. So Salvi right now has the power to bring the momentum back into his favor. I hope it's sooner than later, because it's killing the Royals right now. And he is a big part of the lack of offensive production. Now, granted, he can also be said he's a part of at least a little bit of runs they're scoring. I get that. But if we're going to turn this around to scoring more runs, which they scored, I think, 7 the other day in Chicago, then 7 in St. Louis, and 10 in St. Louis. So 3 out of the last 6 games, they put some better than the season average for them numbers up, which is great.
Yep.
I hope that's a trend. But to keep that trend, he's going to have to hit, and if he doesn't, you need to move him down in the order or consider him sitting once in a while and letting Freddie play and letting Vinny play and letting somebody else DH if someone's hot or something to just to get him out of the lineup.
Yeah, when they made the move to Michael Garcia batting third and Jack Caglione in the lineup, they have averaged 5.3 runs per game against the Cardinals and the White Sox. And I will say, there's a lot of complaints that happen against Q, and this is as a quick aside. I thought for sure that after Salvi's 0 for 4 strikeout day on Saturday, that, well, he's going to get the day off on Sunday. Fermin's going to catch. He didn't give him the day off. Salvi caught, and he had the 2-run home run. And so that certainly helped them win the game. So Q will not get credit for that. But also, it's like, is that just because Salvi's written in the lineup and that's what's going to happen because Salvi's going to play? And I do wonder, I think, Les, that the Royals have to be exploring what they're going to be doing the final 100 games or so of this season with Salvi, if that's moving him down in the lineup, if it's more of a split with Freddie Fermin catching, if it's less DHing and playing first base now that Jack Caglione is up and he can DH and play first. So Salvi, we don't have to have your bat in the lineup every single night because it's just not doing what we've seen in years past. I think they should be examining that and looking at the possibilities right now because they would be doing a disservice. But do you think it's at the point to where maybe at a minimum, you mentioned it, but maybe at a minimum, you do slide him down and you move him to, whether you flip with him and Jack or you move him back behind Waters, and maybe it's Jack Caglione batting 5th, Waters batting 6th, and then Salvi comes in at 7th. What do you think they could be doing or should be doing at this point with Salvi as opposed to that spot between Vinny and Jack that is making a lot of outs?
At worst, the lineup isn't just about Jack, but it's about doing something in your lineup. Number one, you do have to protect the kid a little bit, let him get his feet wet. Number two, the worst thing, the least thing they should do is flip-flop those two. But I think over the years, in a sense, Salvi has earned the right to put himself in the lineup or not most of the time. but that doesn't mean that he vetoes the manager. Okay, and I'm with you. Q's going to take a lot of heat and all that, and he shouldn't, because I think he's done a good job, and he can't swing the bat for these guys. Just like a pitching coach makes a big difference, but the bottom line is you sign veterans that know what they're doing, so he can tweak things here and there. But I think Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo and Reagan's are pretty good at figuring their own games out, and now Bubic as well. So I feel like there has to come a time when, look, Salvi, you've done a good job. Yes, we love your heart, and when you say you want to play, we need to listen for the most part. But when it comes to where it's detrimental offensively to the lineup, you either need to make the change or you need to veto the veto and get him out of the lineup once in a while. So he hit the two-run home run, and I'm sure there were people out there that love Salvi to a fault offensively and say, oh, we'll see, he hit the home run. He wanted to stay in the game, he hit the home run. That pitch was right down the middle. I mean, literally right down the middle. A bad Salvi, a bad anybody Massey could have probably hit that. Well, he probably would have popped it up, but you know what I mean, right?
Right.
So, again, you have to manage above your heart and do what's best for the team. And I just feel like right now you either need to switch him in the lineup, or you need to give him more days off to get, if he is a sag on the offense a little bit, and if it gets to that point where it's more and more, if we keep having repeats and the home run was a fluke where he's in this bad stretch, then you need to sit him. Now, on the other side, Salvi can get in these stretches where he does take those pitches, and he can hit the ball hard, and he does get hot. And but again, remember the doubleheader where he had 4 doubles? I heard that comment the other day, and my response was, dude, how many games ago are you going to justify the present? And it shouldn't work that way. And so, at least flip in the lineup, or otherwise he needs to get out of there.
Yeah. I don't know if I think Freddie Fermin, defensively, I think overall, you're probably better defensively with Fermin behind the dish as opposed to Salvi. So an overall, is it a net gain if Fermin's playing catcher, but also, you don't want Fermin to play every day and then be overexposed, and now all of a sudden Freddie Fermin is OPSing at 500 because he's in there every single day. Like, that's where Q's going to have to figure out what the right balance is. And Sterling brought up an interesting point earlier and said, well, if you flip Salvi and Jack, does that run into something later on in the game where after Michael Garcia, they just bring in a lefty, and now you got Vinny and Jack hitting back-to-back against the lefty?
Right. Then you can experiment a little bit and put a Waters in there, in that hole. Now, it may not be a power hole, but it gives you a time to switch. Now, I know that Waters is a better hitter, left-handed, at least I think so, but it'll put him right-handed. So I completely get that. But what are you trading there? Is it worth putting lefty in there? Because whether it's lefty or righty, Salvi just isn't producing at all. And not just not producing, he's not giving you a chance, because when he comes up and there's 0 outs or 1 out and a runner on first base, it's either going to be a double play or a strikeout with the occasional home run. But again, a pitch right down the middle. It was a mistake pitch, and anybody can do that. Anybody in the lineup can do that is capable of getting the bat around. So that is definitely a good point, but is that enough of a point to sacrifice what we continue to see with him in the 5-hole?
Hear me out. I know the offense has been really good since they've went India, Bobby, Michael, 1, 2, 3. And I'm not saying I necessarily want to switch that up, but to somewhat, maybe the potential to alleviate the back-to-back lefties right there. You'd go India, Bobby, Vinny in the 3-hole, Michael in the 4, Jack in the 5, and then Salvi at 6. Or you can still move Salvi down if you want to put Waters at 6, however you want to see it take place. I think that's the way I would potentially lean with the lineup. Again, I don't know your thoughts here, Les. If I am looking too much into the lefty-righty, almost staggering them, I'm almost trying to think like Q. Because end of the day, Q's the manager. We have to try and get inside his dome to see what he's going to do. Because, we probably don't mind that much. We think the numbers don't make that much of a difference. But we know Q, either way, probably isn't going to go that way.
Yeah, and here's a question. Has Vinny who's been on an incredible hot streak in the last 40 days, has he only faced right-handers?
No, he's faced lefties.
Right. And so, Jack is going to get his feel. Jack's going to have some bad at-bats against righties. So he also went 4 for 4, and so as he continues to figure his game out, right now, I'm not in a position where I'm worried about Jack Caglione facing left-handed pitching, because if you can hit, you can hit. And if you want to give Jack a learning curve, he's got to be able to come in there against lefties as well as come in there against righties. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, but Les, look, I got to stop you real quick, though, because this is drastic with Vinny. It is drastic with Vinny. Against righties, Vinny's batting 302, 359, 477, 837 OPS. He's outstanding versus righties. Versus lefties, he's batting 200, getting on base at a 237 clip, slugging 273. No power, no walks. He has 2 walks. 2 walks to 18 strikeouts against righties, 15 walks versus 28 strikeouts. He clearly does not see the ball as well versus lefties, right? Whether it's how the ball moves, if it's sliders low and away. I haven't noticed a specific pitch that Vinny struggles with against lefties, but the numbers are clear. He doesn't hit for power, and he does not get on base when he faces lefties, especially to that righty clip. So that's more or less my point here. Cags is a whole nother situation when it even comes to Vinny. That's why that stack situation to me is almost unattainable, because you put those guys back, you're facing, Houston, it's just Josh Hader. You're facing the Yankees. I got to think of what lefty they have right now, and they're throwing the lefty in there. You're not facing Devin Williams. You'd rather face Devin Williams. You'd rather face a healthy Luke Weaver than a lefty in that situation.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. But again, if you have to decide, is what Salvi is not bringing, is that, are you going to still suffer through Salvi leaving guys on base, Salvi striking out, Salvi continuing to make the third out in innings, versus, okay, well, we don't want to switch them in the order because then Vinny's going to have to face left-handers, and we know that, those are his stats, so he's hitting 200. What is Salvi hitting over this last poor stretch? I mean, it's a give and take. So you have to decide, either if you're positive thinking, then you're going to decide, okay, what's the best case scenario? If you're trying to avoid the negative, then you're going to have to decide where to move Salvi, out of the lineup or switch him with Jack. And so if you want to, then based on that logic, which I'm not disagreeing with, then you're going to have to take Salvi out of the lineup and replace him with a right-handed hitter. That's just the only way I would see to change that, where you leave Jack in the 6 hole, get Salvi out of the lineup, let Freddie catch, put a DH or somebody that hits right-handed. If it's Mark Canha, put him in the 5 hole. I mean, he's capable. He's not going to hit 20 home runs, but he's going to give you quality at-bats, and he's got decent speed. Put him in the 5 hole for some pro at-bats, and then you protect Vinny a little bit more in the sense of bringing that lefty late in, but then we don't struggle through Salvi. So maybe that's the answer.
Yeah. We'll find out what happens moving forward. Hopefully Salvi will get hot here and alleviate some of this anyway. But we'll find out. Jack's home debut is tonight, and we'll see what he does after finding the grass 4 different times for his 4 at-bats on Sunday. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and I want to get Les Norman's thoughts on a Major League debut that took place last night and an odd sort of scenario with that Major League debut. Rob Manfred is talking about ABS, and Carlos Beltran is turning into his college recruiter. So Carlos Beltran, the GM of Team Puerto Rico for the 2026 World Baseball Classic, who is he making one of his number 1 priorities to go out and recruit to play for Puerto Rico? We'll talk about that next. it will be Noah Cameron on the mound for the Kansas City Royals. Tomorrow night, Chris Bubich, after his turn in the rotation was skipped to limit some of the stress on the arm. He's already surpassed the innings total of a year ago, so the Royals are trying to make sure he remains fresh throughout the season. So he will go tomorrow night with, 8 days rest for Chris Bubich. And then Cole Reagans will go on Thursday, and he will be hopefully going for the sweep. I mean, everybody, that's obvious, just going for the sweep of the New York Yankees on Thursday. Everybody's expecting that. But Les, I bring that up. David Schoenfield at ESPN put out his All-Stars right now, in his opinion, and he put the different starters, but then he listed starter battles. So positions that could have starter battles for that All-Star. There are 2 Royals that are listed in a starter battle, which I thought were interesting. Number 1 was Bobby Witt at shortstop, and he lists him with Jeremy Pena, who has been awesome, and then Wilson, Jack Wilson's son. What's his first name? Is it Jacob?
Yes.
Yeah. I just remember him as Jack Wilson's son, and Jack Wilson, would bat 300, had an amazing ability to put the ball in play and hit.
Wait, is this actually Jack Wilson's kid?
Yeah.
No.
I'm 99.9999999% positive.
The one for the Pirates or
minus the DNA?
Which one? Which Jack Wilson?
I thought Josh. What's the A's player?
Jacob
Wilson. I thought Jacob Wilson's dad.
Yeah, that is the Jack Wilson for the Pirates.
Yeah.
That's who I thought you were talking about.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, Jack Wilson
Wow.
for the Pirates.
Sorry, I guess the last horse just finished the race. I am the last horse. Wow.
Yeah. That's
completely discombobulated right now.
Yeah. So
cool.
Jack Wilson, those were the guys at shortstop. But there was one other position, Les, that I was a little surprised. I shouldn't be, but I was a little surprised that he put in a battle to be a starter in the All-Star game, and it was Tariq Skubal versus Chris Bubich to start the All-Star game. And I thought, you know what? Good on David Schoenfield that, it's easy just to go, well, there's not a battle for the starting pitcher. It's Tariq Skubal. Because he didn't put a battle at every position. Some are just like, This is the starter. But he was saying, Bobby Witt should start, and he said Bobby Witt should be the starter at shortstop. He should start his first All-Star game, and he said, of many more. But Jeremy Pena has been awesome this year, and Wilson has been really good for the A's. But I'll go with Bobby Witt. And then starting pitcher, Tariq Skubal and Chris Bubich. Now, he did say Skubal would be his pick, but is not downplaying what Chris Bubich has done to this point, and is saying that Chris Bubich is deserving of consideration to start the American League All-Star game. Like, that's pretty phenomenal of what Chris Bubich and the positions he's in right now.
Yeah, that is pretty phenomenal. I actually would give the nod to Bubich, not just because I'm a fan, but I think that it's not just the ERA, it's the consistency. And again, I look at Skubal's stats. I know, I get it. Trust me, the guy's a stud. But I'd also take into consideration what Bubich has battled back from. And there was a time where we would say, okay, that's a pretty good start, but let's see what his next start is. And then another start, well, that was a pretty good start, but let's see about a long string of starts together. And then he puts the long string of starts together, and okay, so what's left? You know what I mean? So to be able to battle that, it's not just him having a good year physically and putting things together. There's a mindset that comes with it. It's not just throwing, it's pitching, it's durability, it's length. Just so many variables come into it. But I'm not going to completely disagree with that guy's take on the fact that it's a battle to start. It's pretty good company where whoever starts, the other one's going to be in there too. So. I think that's pretty cool news.
By the way, I remembered Jack Wilson being a higher batting average than he ended up being.
Yeah, that's why I was when you said he's a perpetual. I'm like, I thought the Pirates guy.
He only batted 300 one time, but for whatever, and maybe it was like the fantasy baseball of finding a second baseman that would help out in batting average or whatever. It's like, well, this guy's going to bat you probably 270, 280, not going to give you a whole lot, but he's going to help out in your batting average there. And I'm like, Jack Wilson. fine player, right? Okay.
Yeah.
He batted 308.
He was a fan favorite,
and then he batted 296, and that was about it. So
and then it was like 240, 250.
So, Jacob Wilson got the bat.
That was my confusion,
Yeah.
Jason.
I get it. Totally.
I was like, the Pirates guy, he was not really known for his bat.
No, not for his bat, but I thought he had a higher average.
Yeah.
I just remember him, and again, that's a long time ago when you're like, well, fantasy baseball of 2002, 3, 4, 5, you need a second baseman that can help you out with some batting average. Jack Wilson is fine. So there you go. Schoenfeld also listed Michael Garcia as a reserve, so he had 3 Royals players making the All-Star game. Bobby Witt starting, Chris Bubich, and then Garcia being reserve roles. Les, I wanted to talk to you about a Major League debut last night because I thought this was pretty fascinating. Did you see the story behind Roman Anthony making his debut with the Red Sox last night?
Just a little bit. I know that he was slated, I think, to bat 5th and play right field, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's the story. He was getting on the bus to go to Lehigh with the AAA affiliate when they put Abreu on the IL with the with the oblique strain.
With the thing, thing.
He had the thing. He had the oblique strain, which is probably a good. Yeah, those things take a while in baseball to come back from. So he's on the IL with an oblique strain. They call Roman Anthony to say, hey, you know what? You're actually going up to the big leagues. You're going to Boston tonight. The equipment was already en route to Lehigh. So all of his stuff. So Roman Anthony makes his Major League debut, Les, in the outfield for the Red Sox with borrowed cleats and a borrowed glove.
But it's a big league borrowed cleats and a big league borrowed glove. So even better. That's great.
I mean, but I do wonder from the standpoint of like a guy's glove is pretty personal to him, right? I mean, that's your glove. He made a pretty embarrassing error. He was coming up on a ball in right field and it went under his glove and rolled all the way to the wall. And he didn't make an excuse or say anything about it. He was like, it's unacceptable and can't happen. And I've played that play 1,000 times. It's no reason for that to happen. He didn't say, well, I had this stupid glove that's not mine, and I'm typically used to the webbing opening up a little bit more. And as the ball went underneath and my glove would have been fine. Like, he didn't make like an excuse from that standpoint. But I do wonder, like a guy out there, like your debut, it's like, these aren't my cleats, this isn't my glove, and I'm here in right field in Boston at Fenway, and everybody's giving me a standing ovation when I'm standing out here chanting my name.
Yeah, and if it had been the second, third, fourth game, then I would have been like, okay, this is a little bit ridiculous. I need my stuff.
Yeah.
But the first game, I think that there's so much emotion and excitement, and I think that's why that ball went under his glove, because he wanted to come up. Everything you're trying to make happen so much faster, so you come up,
yeah.
You're going to throw and get it in there, and so that's kind of the little lerp moment right there that happens. So, yeah, I think that there was just so much in the big league debut and the crowd and all that it probably wasn't a big deal. I'm sure there was some discomfort it not being your stuff, yeah. But I just think the bigness of the moment probably overshadowed that a little bit.
If you had your choice of what you had to borrow, would it be a borrowed glove or a borrowed bat? Like, which one would you say, you know what, I'd rather be out there with a borrowed this, but I don't want to borrow somebody else's this?
Yeah, I would borrow a glove before I borrow a bat because, I can adjust a feel. I can adjust my fingers inside of a glove. And any glove I wore anyway, I would either wear two fingers in the end or three fingers in the end and then not use the one or the two finger holes in the middle because it extends your glove and creates a better pocket. So you can use somebody else's glove and be confident, but a bat has so much feel to it and so much more mental comfort to it, and you just you know it's there, it's yours. So, I'm thinking about Judge Smales using the Billy Baru, that's his putter, man.
I love it. Well, luckily for Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, his teammate at AAA, actually had one of his bats when he went up to the big leagues. He took one of Roman Anthony's bats up to the big leagues with him. So he had a bat with him, but he only had one. So he's up there every at bat going, if I break this bat, I don't have a bat. I got to borrow somebody else's bat if I break this. So at least he had his own bat up there with the dimensions that he's used to swinging every time.
In the minor leagues, you tend to have a little more pro stock available. I'm sure it's changed a little bit, and every couple of years bats get better. But in the big leagues, man, those bats are really You're accustomed to getting them in your dimensions, your feel, your weight, your length, your color, your knob, whether it's small, curve, whatever it may be. And so, I would definitely rather borrow someone's glove than I would want to use somebody else's bat. But regardless of that, you make do with what you have. And if you don't have your bat, you find something that's close to the equivalent and get up there and roll it.
Yeah, I think he might have had enough time. There was like an hour. He arrived there to Fenway, and it was like an hour and a half before the game. I mean, it was pushing it for him to get there. So he probably would have had enough time to find a bat that he felt comfortable with. But I can only imagine if it's like he gets there, it's like, sorry, Roman, we only use torpedo bats around here. So go in the cage and figure it out.
And that's all he would have been able to do.
That's right. I tweeted this out over the weekend, Les, and people had some fun with it, making it out to be, not baseball related. But Kyle Isbell jumped up in St. Louis to rob a home run, and it bounced off the top of his glove. And I thought he robbed the home run. And then we find out that it bounced off the top of his glove and landed in the flowers there in St. Louis. And I said, I don't know, Kyle, maybe use 4 in the pinky next time. And people just took that as, you can imagine, Les, what happened on X when people saw that tweet. And I'm like, has nobody played outfield before?
A10's Kyle Collier pointed it out to me. I didn't see it, but he
so
was on it.
Has nobody played outfield before? Les just
Mark
said that he's 2 and sometimes even 3 in the pinky if you have to.
Whoa! Well, Les was just talking about knobs
what
earlier.
Are you talking about? What is sexual about in the pinky? There's nothing sexual about the pinky in the pinky. It's a glove. You've got a pinky hole. You've got the ring finger. You got the middle finger. Sometimes you got the pointer finger. It depends on the comfort that you have. There's nothing crazy about that. People just want to make everything out to be that less. And I'm just saying for Kyle Isbell, I was just saying next time, if you can extend that glove a little bit, maybe you rob the home run. That's all. That's all I was saying. They've got sophomoric minds, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know where they get it from.
I don't either.
It just
it's ridiculous.
It happens.
Yeah.
But
dumb.
In watching that replay, and I'm sure Kyle did that. I mean, that has happened to me before, where you jump a millisecond too early, a millisecond too late, or you even think, man, if I'd adjusted my fingers in the glove, I would have had a little bit better reach. Or if I would have turned my wrist a little bit more, it would have given a little better pocket, and I had a chance to go in and all that. Everything's got to be perfect in moments like that, and Kyle Isbell is an awesome outfielder. Good. So, and he always has been. I love watching that kid play outfield. So, nothing but love to him on that one. It was, could he have caught it? Yeah, but I mean, you saw the catch by the kid from Oakland
Denzel
yesterday. I mean, oh my gosh,
it's unbelievable.
That's just ridiculous.
He jumped. It's almost like he jumped too early and it didn't matter. He was jumped and then he was hanging out on the wall waiting for it.
Because he had to reach so far then, too. He gets to the wall and then he still had to reach to get that thing. Yeah. That's unbelievable.
It was incredible. So, and the sad thing is that Kyle Isbell is such a good outfielder that a month from now he will still randomly think about that and think, man, I should have had that ball. So he's given us enough incredible plays.
Oh yeah,
he gets a slide on that.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I do wonder, just having conversations with outfielders, how the different outfielders wear their gloves in different ways. With where the pinky and the ring finger, and like you said, sometimes it's 2, maybe 3 if you're really trying to get that glove an extension.
Well, don't they have half the hand out of it? Usually you
when
almost
you look at an outfielder's glove, the bottom of that glove is coming across the palm.
Yeah.
Like almost.
Because you want to have as much reach as possible.
Yeah. But the difference is it feels, and just talking about that you think, well, you can't control the glove's going to come out. But when you do that, it puts your pinky and your thumb, spread out a little bit more, and so you just tighten your glove around it, and again, it creates such a big pocket that you don't even feel when the ball goes in. I mean, you can dive for a ball and catch it, and when you slam on the ground, it's the pocket's still going to form. There's not a risk of it coming out. I mean, it's just that comfort level. And you also have to remember, too, I used to use the old trapeze Rawlings glove. And for me, it created a good pocket when you did that. I really also liked the Mizuno gloves back then because their leather was a little thicker and better. And if you did a good job of making the pocket the right way, the rest of the glove would stay tough, and you'd still be able to, probably maybe only use 2-1-1 versus the 3-1, and then nothing in the middle and nothing in the index. And so it's all a matter of feel. It's all a matter of comfort and confidence. And so, you could have told him, man, if you'd had your pinky finger, an extra one, he still wouldn't have worn differently.
Kyle, just do what you're doing. Just do what you're doing.
Those catches are so hard to time and so hard to pull off. It takes an elite athlete to be able to do stuff like that consistently. And I've been successful, and I've also failed at those wall catches. And so everything's got to be right. And when you do it, you look like a hero. And when you don't, everybody's thinking, man, you should have had that.
Oh, so close.
All right, quickly, Les, would you have caught that ball?
Absolutely, I would have caught that ball.
Yes,
I would have come in and thrown the guy. Actually,
yeah, right.
There was my one time in Omaha. I did this at the old Rosenblatt Stadium. I went up on the wall, robbed the home run. I was waist high in the wall, slammed on top of the wall, caught the ball, pulled it back, came down, and then just threw it as hard and as far as I could, and doubled the guy off at first base. And so it was like a crowning moment, but we won't talk about the other probably 10 times I tried to do it and didn't catch it. So
why would we?
Les,
Seems like a waste.
Saying all that about the baseball glove, would you not then change maybe your answer about which one you'd rather borrow with the bat or the glove? Because it feels like the bat,
Well, the question, Dylan, was if I had to choose between a borrowed glove or a borrowed bat.
Right.
I would want to have my own glove, absolutely. But if you're going to take away my bat or you're going to take away my glove, take away my glove. Give me my bat, because if I'm going and scaling a wall and missing it, it's not an error. But if I strike out because I'm in my own head about using someone else's bat, that's a little more glaring.
That's a good point.
Yeah, take my glove, but give me my bat.
Yes, yes. There you go. Take leave the gun, take the cannoli.
Now, if you get an error at third and it bounces out of the glove, then that's a little different than the home run. But I got you.
I'm looking at the
Still won't.
as we take a break. As we take a break, real quick, taking a break and coming back. The Rawlings trapeze glove outfield. I'm going to go get this one for my son. A cool 340, about $340 for that one. If you want to go.
I'm sorry, buddy. Back then, I usually got 2 freebies a year.
Good
so,
for you, dude.
Membership has its privileges.
No doubt. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More zone next. Norm. I wanted to bring this up with you because Carlos Beltran is recruiting for the WBC, and he has stated who he is going to make a play for his big fish to catch. Do you guys, Sterling, Dylan, Les, maybe you guys have already seen this, but who Carlos Beltran is making a play for that he wants to convince to play for Team Puerto Rico?
I have not seen this.
Is it obvious or is it pretty?
It's not obvious.
Okay, so
There is a local connection, obviously.
Okay, so it's obviously not like Lindor because he is Puerto Rican.
Yep, Lindor is Puerto Rican. Let me just say that this guy's mom was born in Puerto Rico, and I didn't realize that because we view him as only Italian.
I'll disqualify
Vinny.
myself.
Vinny's already playing for Team
myself.
Italy.
I have seen this.
Vinny's
Jack
already playing-
Caglione.
Jack Caglione.
Wow.
Carlos Beltran on record as saying Jack Caglione is his the one that he's going to be pushing the hardest to play for Team Puerto Rico. And by the way,
I'm going to go
his
power
mom-
of attorney. No.
but his mom is Puerto Rican, so it wouldn't be like it's one of those to where, well, his grandma spent some time there. So Jack would have three choices. Team Puerto Rico, where his mom was born, Team Italy, where his father's roots are, or Team USA, where he's lived. He's got three choices to play for the World Baseball Classic. He could join Vinny with Team Italy. He could join Bobby with Team USA, or join MJ Melendez with Team Puerto Rico. So we'll see.
Well, the third
Hopefully he
one's
gets
out.
the United
Don't do
States. Hopefully he gets the United States invite. That would be awesome to play for Team USA. But if he's not invited, Les, I mean, would it be the worst thing to represent your mom's country?
No, it wouldn't. And you know what?
Or, you know,
it's smart on
territory.
Carlos Beltran to reach out
Yes.
to him. That's a great recruit.
Absolutely, and it's you know what, you get some fanfare. You know, you get some. They need a first baseman. Like I was looking through, Nelson Velazquez, MJ Melendez are on Team Puerto Rico. So you know,
That's a punt right there.
yeah, there you go. Emmanuel Rivera, so some former Royals that are there. But Lindor, Correa, Ramos, they've got some good players. But I was looking at Team USA from last year. Their first baseman was Paul Goldschmidt. And their outfielders, their corner outfielders were Mookie Betts, Kyle Tucker, and Cedric Mullins. I mean, there's a spot.
pretty good.
There's a spot, though. I mean, if depending on what he does the rest of the year, you'd be capitalizing on a big craze in baseball of people and how far he hits the ball. So, I don't know. Vinny will be recruiting him to Team Italy. Beltran will be recruiting him to Team Puerto Rico, and hopefully somebody on Team USA is smart enough to get Jack. That would be awesome.
Yep.
But
That would be fun. It will be fun.
but we'll see. Les, you're the man as always. It's always fun hanging out with you. Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com and First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Les, appreciate it, brother.
Jack goes deep tonight.
Let's do it, man. Jack's going to jack up a baseball, and the Royals. You know what? Let's make it a walk-off. Why not?
It's a walk-off.
You know what? Let's get jiggy with it. Let's get Jackie with it. Let's do it, man. Let's go, Cags.
Love it.
Let's
Wait,
go.
it's just Max Fried. The Royals love hitting against aces.
That's true. That's true. But a walk-off wouldn't be against Fried.
Well, maybe it is. Maybe it's
Maybe it's a 1-0 game.
Yeah.
Fried
perfect
stays
game.
in the game.
In there for
Yeah.
a perfect game.
Maybe that's the case. We'll see what happens. Les, appreciate it, brother. Enjoy the game tonight.
We'll do it. See you next week.
Absolutely. There's Les Norman, breaking the norm. TruckMovers.com and First Federal Bank of Kansas City. He's heading out to the decay. I know a lot of people are as well. Todd Lebo heading in here next. All right, we continue on this Tuesday edition of The Zone. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. That's right, Todd Lebo hanging out with us here for the hour. We'll do some fact or fiction coming up in the next segment. Hi, Todd.
Good morning. What? Good afternoon.
Good morning. Good afternoon. I'm not sure.
How you guys doing?
I don't really have anything, so with that, I'll just open it up to questions.
What do we got?
Yeah.
Any questions?
I don't remember that exact play, but if you're saying it, then I'll take your word for it.
Take your word for it.
We'll hear that maybe next week. We heard it last week.
Yeah,
So,
we probably won't get that again for a while.
We got 3 days worth of press conferences though next week, but not assistant coaches. Probably,
Yeah, probably
just,
not. Probably.
just the players and
Maybe
Andy
we'll get
Reid one
coordinated
day.
again. Maybe. Don't know.
Maybe I'll be fine with that. I'll be
Maybe.
fine with Andy one day and players, and then coordinators one day and players.
Otherwise, we'll just have to wait till late July to talk to
Oh,
Spags again.
cannot wait. Cannot wait.
Maybe we'll get a schedule
there.
sometime
Yes.
of all that.
Do
Maybe.
Todd? Do you think we'll see Trey Smith next week at mandatory minicamp? He's been at voluntary
Yes.
stuff in his career.
Yes.
This is the first time he skipped voluntary,
I don't think he's going to.
but
Listen,
it's mandatory next week.
Trey Smith's no dum-dum.
Right.
Okay? He signed his tag.
Yeah.
Why would he just give away like $100 and some
Yeah,
$1,000?
for three. If you skip all 3 days, it's roughly $100,000 fine.
Imagine
By the way,
giving
Trey
away
Smith
that
has
much
not
money.
made.
Yes.
Yeah,
He's got
I
a
heard you guys
6-round
joking
contract.
about T.J. Watt and all this stuff.
Yeah.
This guy, he's made like I don't know, $5-6 million maybe in his career.
And part of that's an escalator from his 6th-round contract because
Yeah.
of how well he's played.
Yeah, so this
think.
is not someone who has made the kind of money that even Trey Hendricks has made, or anyone like that.
You had your ring on your right finger there for a
I was just
second,
playing
and I
around
thought I was like, "Are you European or?"
No, I was just playing
wow.
around with the ring.
Yeah.
playing around.
Sorry, it caught me off guard because I was like, "Wow, Lebo's a
I
very
have a lot of different wedding
cultured
rings,
man."
Too, so
Yeah.
It,
So
it really just comes with your finger. That base camp has really helped you out.
I know.
Yeah, impressive.
Falls right off.
Sorry, it's just
No,
I'm
you're good.
enamored by it.
you're good. Yeah. He made 3.4 last year in
This is
2024.
big year. It probably doubled
And that-
everything he'd made in his life.
Yeah, because he had made 1.4, 2.3. He had made 3 total
Mm-hmm.
in his career, but the escalator in his 4th year because of how well he played,
played,
and Pro
yeah.
Bowler, he got a $3.4 million contract.
He's
so
not-
he's made 6.5 in his
He's
career.
not giving away anything. My guess, and the people I've talked about there, I've not talked to Trey Smith. He does not like not being there.
Yeah.
He likes his teammates
Yeah.
and would probably like to be there, but he's probably been told, listen,
Just
you
making
don't
a
go to
point.
this stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
It's voluntary. You don't need to get hurt and stuff if you're on
And
a
they-
franchise
They
tag 1-year
do not
deal.
have, no, well, that's why you sign it
Right.
instead of just not signing it, because if you do get hurt
But
somehow.
if you do get hurt, then you're a 1-year deal. They're
even
not
if
going to give you that long
trip
term
down
though.
your stairs or whatever,
Yeah.
it's a guaranteed thing.
Right, but it's guaranteed for 1 year,
Yeah.
and if you get really hurt, and it's like, well, we're not going to give you a long-term deal now, so now you're going to play 1 year on this thing,
But
and
like
then
I
next year,
said,
good
in,
luck.
in his position,
Yeah,
as someone who's only made $6 million,
right.
and
He's
you're
going to make
gonna get
he's going to make 23 this year.
23, you sign that thing
yeah.
and just hope you don't trip anywhere.
Yeah, and no reason to give up $100,000 to show up for minicamp
And you
and
can
not do
also
much.
be at minicamp and maybe not participate
Yeah,
in
you
everything.
can hold in.
Hold in.
Chase did that last year.
It's happened.
But there's no reason for him to hold out at training camp because past July 15th, there's nothing you can do anyway.
Yeah.
You either sign a long-term deal or you play on the franchise tag, and you can't sign a long-term deal after the deadline expires. So he'll be at training
I
camp.
could be
It's
dead
just-
wrong, but he does not seem to me to be
Yeah.
someone who will be holding out and causing a stink.
Yeah.
But I don't know where their conversations have been, if they've gotten ugly. I doubt it. Brett
Mm-hmm.
Veach doesn't seem the kind of the guy who's going to have some
Yeah.
nasty conversations with agents or something.
Yeah.
We've been around some of those in the past, but it's a different deal here.
And
so
Trey seems to be as well liked in the building as anybody.
absolutely,
So-
he's been a perfect teammate.
Yeah.
A consummate professional, some would
Performed
say.
well
Yeah.
on and off the field, meetings,
The
being
Super Bowl-
available.
Super Bowl celebration.
All of it.
Doing what he did with the kids and protecting them and
No, he's
giving them
a-
the championship belt and all that stuff. The
he's a-
stories that we've seen.
Great dude.
Yeah.
So I think I don't think we'll have that kind of drama
Yeah.
in St. Joe. I hope not.
I think
But,
he'll-
I mean, you know,
I think
you
he'll
never
get.
know.
I think he'll get signed long term. I think they'll eventually get something done, and it'll be like a 4-year extension. And the benefit for Trey Smith is that he's in the position of power in this because I can make 23.4 this year, so that's going to be the starting point. And if you don't want to pay me that, well, you got Kingsley and Caliendo and maybe Norzad. And if you let me go after this year, good luck with your offensive line, and what you're going to do there at guard since you're already trying to figure out one guard spot.
I
So
don't think the Chiefs are trying to be cheap or anything. I
I
mean,
don't
the
think
Chiefs
they are
have
either.
3 things happening at once here.
yeah,
I can make the
Because they
argument.
got Karlaftis and Trent
and
McDuffie, and they're going to figure it out.
Well, that's my point. I think you can make the argument this is actually okay for Kansas City.
for him to play 1 year on the franchise tag.
Well, yes, because you have McDuffie and Karlaftis, I think, at more premium positions, and now you have the opportunity, at least, since he's already signed it. I think we all agree he's going to play this year. You're going to see in OTAs and training camp, what does C.J. Hansen or Hunter Norzad or Kingsley Suamataia look like at left guard? Because if those guys look good, and you're sitting there going, wow, well, actually, two of these guys look pretty darn good. Well, let's use that money to keep Karlaftis and McDuffie instead of trying to re-sign and pay a guard.
What does Trey Smith's watched all these guys in practice. He knows if they're good.
No,
or not.
I don't disagree. I'm not but my point is, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, at
Maybe
least
that's why he hadn't signed.
maybe a guy takes a step forward because
you can't step forward without an opportunity.
and
right.
so I do think if you're Kansas City, this is not the worst case spot to be in because now you do get to see him, these other guys in training camp and see what they look like.
Well, they're going to get all of them their reps to do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Trey will be at camp, so I don't think there's going to be extra reps around for guys.
Yeah, he'll be. There's no reason for him to miss training camp.
The Chiefs
No,
don't
you can't. I mean, it's just dumb.
trouble. They don't
Yeah.
like these things. Now, this has not been trouble yet. We always joke about the pummel clip or whatever when we were asking about it was Marcus Peters and Justin Houston and Eric Berry weren't there, and that was OTAs, whatever. But
Chris Jones
has rarely been in an OTA, and he's been there both times we've been out there.
That's a good point.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The only real drama that they've had with contract stuff in the last however many years has been the Chris Jones thing last year when
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago when he skipped the opener, sat in the suite or in the club level,
Katz Brothers.
had the press conference at the Ronald McDonald House.
Yeah.
And his agents didn't want him to talk, but he'd already told the people at Ronald McDonald House, I'm talking, and they came like, we don't want to talk about it. He's talking, so, and he did. And, he said what he said. It was fine. That's really all they've had. They were headed towards something similar with Tyreek Hill. They nipped it by trading him.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Yep.
They were probably heading towards something with Marcus Peters. Gone.
Yep.
Bye. So they don't like these things. And they've always kind of been able to work through. And I think Chris Jones was worth the sweat because there's not many Chris Joneses out there.
Yeah.
Trey Smith's really, really good. I don't think Trey Smith's going to hold out or do anything. But it is a guard, And Tyreek Hill was excellent and great. But they had a quarterback who was excellent and great and some other weapons. And they managed to somehow win 2 Super Bowls and go to 3 without Tyreek Hill. So they don't like trouble. I still think the most curious one of the whole thing is going to be whether or not they sign Trent McDuffie to a long-term deal because they have not signed a cornerback to a long-term deal.
until we said the same thing about centers. They don't sign centers to long-term deals until it was Creed Humphrey because he's different. I think Trent McDuffie is a little different. He's not. L'Jarius was really good.
Mm-hmm. Well,
really
they knew L'Jarius Sneed was hurt all the time.
Knee was a ticking time bomb.
Travarius Ward was really good. By the way,
good.
was really good in San Fran.
Oh, yeah.
But he was
All pro.
really good.
And they felt like we've got L'Jarius here. We can let Travarius go because we also drafted Thacarius.
They did, Bo Peep Keys. They had Brandon Flowers. He was really good.
Yeah.
They had Brandon Carr, really
Really good.
Marcus Peters, really good. But they were all not Trent McDuffie. They were all not this level. They were all that Pro Bowl caliber. They weren't the all-pro
that's what we need
first
to see.
team.
McDuffie's not even Pro Bowl
He's
caliber.
not even Pro
though.
Bowl.
I mean,
Yeah, but he's
McDuffie
all
can-
pro.
Above Pro Bowl.
McDuffie's
going to
have a breakout year this year and make a Pro Bowl for
Maybe.
the first time in his
But that's
career.
kind of my point. Was Mitch Morse was really, really good.
Sure.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the best
Rodney
in
Hudson
the
and all
NFL.
those guys. So I just until they sign a cornerback to a long-term thing, they will have not signed a cornerback to a long-term thing.
Agreed.
I think they want to. I mean, everything that Brett Veach has said, in front of the microphone and just chit-chatting around is they'd like to have all 3 of these things done. Don't know what order it's going to be in. Don't know if it'll be before the season.
Yeah.
It's all got to kind of fall into place and work. And it's not like there's a, there was, on the Chris Jones thing, there was something out there who was the Jets player, the Quinnen Williams on the other team. They're waiting for him to sign to kind of set markets or whatever.
Sauce. The defensive lineman.
for Chris Jones,
Yeah, I don't think there's something here with these 3 guys that's supposed to set any market. I don't know if one of them is more important to do before the other 2 within the organization either. I don't know if any of them, because they're under contract this year.
Yeah.
And the way I would like to do it, if I owned a team or was Jim, play your contract. But that's not the way it works. The way it works is you're not coming to something. I'm only going to make $20 million. You know, that's
That's what I said, can we take a step back and say that, like T.J. Watt's saying, yeah, I'm not showing up. I'm only going to make $28 million this year.
Well, he's going to get his $28 million. He's just not going to come there for these 3 days.
Yeah.
But like
He'll be there when the real checks
$28
start.
million
I
minus
understand.
And if this
100,000.
Hendrickson says he's not playing, I'll be dumbfounded if he
Yeah.
doesn't play, because those are real checks.
Yeah.
What's he set to make?
16 million.
That's $1 million a week.
Yeah.
dude,
You're just going to not. And how old is
it
he?
is wild.
Is
He's
he
a-
23?
No, he's
No.
not. Those numbers are closer to being,
30-something, right?
being reversed than they
Yeah,
are.
I mean, you don't have many chances. Now, that's why
Yeah.
he's holding out.
Yeah.
That's why he's trying to force
one
the
last
Bengals.
payday. He's 31. He's either going to be 31. He's either 31 right now, going to turn 32, or this will be his 31-year-old
He's fighting
season.
with the wrong team because they're cheap. I know they've paid Joe
He's
Burrow.
30. He turns 31
Chase, but-
December 5th.
Okay, so
This
I guess
is
this would be
real
his
money.
30-year-old season then.
You know, this is cash money. This money has to be there
Yeah.
for these teams. This isn't just this fantasy money that's going to come in with the TV deals or whatever. You got to give the dude the check.
You have to have it in escrow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to have this money
So-
sitting there. I don't know what the
He's got.
Mike Brown and those.
He'll be
people have.
making 16 million in cash
Same as
this
you and
year.
me, Todd.
Not much.
He's made 68.2 in his career, and he'll be making 16 this year. That's not nothing.
Yeah, but the amount of interest you think those guys get.
I mean, remember last year they were selling their TVs to the public for cash only?
Yeah.
Got to pay a big time
Yeah.
receiver.
I mean, they got some issues in Cincinnati.
make a
They-
dollar here, make a dollar
Yeah,
there.
they cut Jermaine Pratt. They've got an issue with Shamar Stewart, who still hasn't signed his contract and refuses to sign it with the language in there.
it's
You've
the
got
end of,
Trey Hendrickson going on.
With these big numbers that you have to give for these signing bonuses, you have to have the money, you have to have an escrow,
Yeah.
you have to do those things. You know, we know they're all rich guys, they're all billionaires, whatever. But the Brown family is an NFL family.
Yeah, their value is their money is tied up in the value of the
in
Browns.
the quote unquote Forbes value.
Well, I mean
or whatever-
Bengals. I mean,
yeah, of whatever the Bengals are.
Yeah.
I mean, and you talk to any owner, they'll tell you those numbers are bogus. Okay, whatever the value, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. They have their formula, and if you talk to them, some of them are like, nah, I don't know. You know what I mean? Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. People have not been losing money buying professional sports teams, but Mike Brown didn't buy a professional sports team. He got it because his family's had it forever. So does he have $2 billion? I don't think he does.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't.
If he sells it, he does. But
Yeah,
then, you know, at that point,
then it's not his problem to pay
Right.
Trey Hendrickson any money.
and it's why we're seeing them sell the rights to the stadium, sell the rights to like the field, and they're
they've
doing
got
all
a-
these different types
So
of.
they got some stadium
used
issues there.
TVs.
They've got
Yeah.
a little lease, and like we've gone through around here
Yeah.
with the maintenance, repair, operational stuff. That's not pretty.
Yeah.
They should do
what's going on
NASCAR.
there.
Just sell it like NASCAR. Their jerseys are now just going to be
No, they-
just sponsors.
They have them in
Charmin
the- in
Ultra
training
Soft
camp.
In training
sponsoring Jamar Chase when he's locked up by.
Listen, it
Trey
won't be
McDuffie.
long. It won't be long. Major League Baseball has jerseys
Yeah.
now with stuff.
NFL will have 'em.
NBA's had it for years.
I'm surprised the NFL doesn't already have it.
NFL has them in training camp. You
Yeah.
can buy them there,
They're pretty close.
but they're going to
It's
get
gonna
close.
be in the
'cause
NFL.
Why wouldn't
or
you take
regular
the money?
season.
I
Yeah.
mean,
It's going to be in the regular season, and now you can have the private equity invest in some of these teams, so he can get liquid if he wants to from that standpoint by selling off a couple percentages of the team and still be majority owner and be able to pay some of this money and put it in escrow. But you know, it's an issue there that the problem with that organization is that it's a long-standing reputation about that organization, with Carson Palmer threatening to retire, Carlos Dunlap being mad about how it ended in his career and still being bitter about it when he played the Bengals when he was with the Chiefs, right? Still upset about that whole thing. You had Jamar Chase holding in last year and upset about how that contract negotiation went until he got his money. Then he was fine with it. And then you've got Trey Hendrickson for now a year's worth, last offseason and now this offseason, going through the same song and dance with Cincinnati. And of course, I think you have to add in, you spend a first-round draft pick on Shamar Stewart, who is a guy that we've talked about, like, well, this guy's going to need the reps, right? He's got crazy numbers and athleticism off the charts, but the sack numbers, the counting stats, did not happen at Texas A&M for some reason. Like, he was getting pressures, and he's got this mix of speed and power and athleticism, but he wasn't getting sacks. Well, he's going to need reps and, you know, to get better and better. Well, he's not showing up to anything right now because you put into his contract that if anything happens in conduct detrimental or whatever they deem it, every single guaranteed dollar for the remainder of his contract is null and void. And he's like, yeah, You've never done this with anybody else before. I'm not going to be your guinea pig, and you're not going to set the precedent with me. I'm not signing. I'll just continue to hold out. And we talked about it, yesterday or whatever, that I guarantee the NFLPA is behind him saying, do not sign that contract. Do not sign that. We'll give you loans. We'll figure it. You're going to make a lot of money in your career. We'll give you loans. Do not sign that contract. You're not setting the precedent of all dollars being voided moving forward because of something that happens in 2024.
It's up to judgment
or
of
2025.
Yeah.
That's ambiguous to the team can decide what's detrimental or not.
The Bengals are the end of Animal House when everything's going awry and they're just the guy sitting there going, all is well. All is fine. Calm down. All is
Burrow,
well.
Chase, and T. Burrow, Chase, and T. What are we upset about?
That was the issue.
Yeah.
They made the wrong decision. Well, we'll see if they made the wrong decision, but you had to pick between, in my opinion, Hendrickson or Higgins.
And they chose
Higgins.
And
now we're just sitting here. Basically, we all know what's going to happen, but we have to sit through all this news, all the rest of this.
Aaron Rodgers. We all knew what was going to happen.
Correct.
Let's hear from Adam Schefter, because this is another rival in the AFC. A man who had a phenomenal game against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Had that great fourth down run that Nick Bolton was there at the goal line and stuck the ball just over the goal line to score the touchdown on fourth down. James Cook. He is also not showing up to anything in Buffalo, will not be showing up to the mandatory mini camps, will not be showing up to training camp for the time being, and may never play in Buffalo again. We'll see what happens with that whole thing. But here's Adam Schefter yesterday afternoon, the latest on James Cook.
We have not seen the Buffalo Bills pay James Cook yet. And James Cook's a valuable member of that offense. But I don't believe that these two sides are anywhere close to a deal at this point in time. And as we enter a critical season for the Buffalo Bills, James Cook is one of the more important players there. And with a deal not on the horizon, that looms as a little storm cloud over the promising season that's ahead for the Buffalo Bills. Now, if he doesn't show up there, what do? Well, they've got Ray Davis. They've got Tyler Johnson. They've got some firepower. They could always add another running back, but that offense certainly will lose something by not having James Cook. And my point here is I don't think the two sides are close now, and I think this is going to take some time to figure out.
Should also point out that whether he's just looking for a new house or not, after the talks with Brandon Beane and his agent sort of broke down, where Brandon Beane said they're not doing any deals anytime soon, he then listed his house for sale there in Buffalo. It's still for sale there in Buffalo, so he hasn't taken it off the market or anything. So he's listed his house. Maybe he was just looking for a different house anyway.
Yeah.
Well, once I get this contract extension, I'm not going to leave
Next
Buffalo.
door neighbors,
So I'm going to get my
cut his
forever home.
grass.
I'm going to get my forever home here. Now I'm going to get that. So I'm going to list this house. The timing of it was certainly curious, of talks breaking down. I don't foresee a contract getting done anytime soon. And now his house is listed for sale.
No one is more petty than athletes. They'll unfollow the team. They'll list their house for sale.
Take all their stuff off social media.
They'll post cryptic messages. It's like a high schooler just trying to get the attention of someone.
Middle schooler?
Because
maybe middle school, yeah.
Because they've always had the attention.
Yeah.
They've always been number one. They've
I feel
always
bad
been
for
the guy.
Cook. I mean, his running back's just how it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
You're not going to get $28 million a year.
I think he's a big part of that offense, though.
Hey, Lebo, if I ever get mad, though, I'm going to unfollow you on Twitter or Instagram, okay?
Okay.
Just
how would I know?
I don't know.
Will I get a notification?
Jason looks up. Is Sterling still following Lebo?
I'm going to create a burner and then follow you just to make up for his unfollow. So, yep, I'm going to do that for you.
For me.
Because that's how important you are to me. Also,
That
shout
makes
out.
me feel good.
We got some cake here. Happy birthday, Chad Boger.
Boss man.
Yes, the boss man. His birthday, was he 25?
More than that.
27.
It's a prime number.
Prime years then. 27-year-old prime of your career.
27 is not a prime number.
But it's a prime of his career.
Because it can be divided by 3 and 9.
No.
36.
Also not a prime number.
42.
No.
35 and a half. 31. 33.
Sterling's trying to think about prime numbers.
37 is a prime number.
But you think Chad's 37?
Yes.
He looks like it.
Yeah, he doesn't look.
Chad's
a day over.
Worked here for 28 years.
Yeah,
no,
he started at 9.
9 years old. I mean, the guy's a freaking
Chad,
genius.
congrats
What are
on
you talking
turning
about?
37. That's actually the only prime number I can think of, so congratulations.
Good job by him.
Prime, wasn't he 21?
No, it's also not a prime number.
That's 3 divided by 7. You did the same thing. Come on.
He's talking about prime like prime.
Optimus?
Prime. Dion.
Oh.
Or number 21.
Well, it depends on
Thank
what
you.
sport, what team.
That's
It's hard
a good
to
point.
tell.
That's
I
a
don't
good
know.
point. Add them all
Impossible
together.
to know.
Who knows? Shador, number 2. Let's take a break. We'll
Retire
come
that.
back.
Retire that.
Let's take a break and come back for segment number 2, which is Fact or Fiction next. All right, time to play a little fact or fiction. Fact, Todd will be out there for some pregame today for Jack Caglianone's Royals debut. Excuse me, home debut. Home debut.
Home
Royals.
opener, basically.
Yeah, might as well be.
Might as well be.
You think it's going to be sold out? 30+ thousand at least?
No, but there'll be a good crowd there.
I think it'll be close. I have a feeling it'll be close to 30.
It's
I think
dollar
there's
dog
some
night.
excitement for tonight's
There's some
game.
excitement. It's good weather. School's out.
School's out. 6:40 start still, even with
Yankees
school's
always
out.
bring their people.
Ooh,
Yep.
dollar dog night. Does your boy go and do the 999
Well, hey,
challenge?
welcome to the show, Sterling.
weren't
We've been talking
invited.
about this for like a week now.
You weren't invited. You don't have a ticket.
Yeah, the entire sales staff is
Easton-
going out
yeah, I was
there to
gonna
do the
say Easton's
999
already on
tonight.
it.
What?
Yeah.
Why? They're scared. They
They
know
are
I would
scared.
win. Let's be real. You think I'm not crushing 9 dogs, 9 beers?
I think you're not,
I'll up
actually.
it. 11 beers. I'll go
You're
to
so
extras.
stupid. No.
I'll go to extras. I won't see tomorrow.
You would
But
not
I'll
be-
go to extras, pal.
You wouldn't pass the
The
challenge.
rough deal is some quick working pitchers tonight.
That's true.
It's not the ideal thing.
point.
At least the Yankees do take pitches. So
That's,
Little-
they
How?
do.
How did I not get invited to this? This is absurd.
how do you not get invited to anything? I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't
Maybe
know.
time to look in the mirror, buddy.
I
Facts.
thought
We
Let's
talked about
fiction.
it. We talked about it last Thursday.
I thought I was a nice fella.
You were gone.
Yeah, we discussed it last Thursday.
You were all gone.
Marucci's going to be there.
Son
doing it
of
on
a-
the sales staff. So
No,
we'll
no,
see.
cool. I didn't want to go.
I know you didn't. Fact or fiction? Let's get into that. Since Todd's going to actually work out there today for the for 810 and covering the Royals. Let's start with him. Let's start with Todd because he's got to work today
Out of work.
to cover the Royals.
They're paying you to do the 999 challenge?
I'm
Todd?
not doing
Oh,
that. I'm
okay,
gonna just go out and get some sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fact or fiction?
Sound of
You
those
know
guys
what?
trying to finish the 999 or sound of Jack Caglione and Q?
Fact or fiction? Didn't even want to go to this game. I'm
Fact.
glad I wasn't
Fact.
invited.
Fiction.
It's fiction. I wish
Yeah,
I
of
would have
course you
gone.
wanted
I
to
wish.
go.
I wish.
You know, Tickets for Less probably has an opportunity for you to go.
Hey.
I'm just letting you know you could probably go if you wanted to go. Could probably
If
go.
I go,
I bet there are
and I do the
tickets for Less
999
right now.
challenge, I will not be here tomorrow.
I want you to do the 999 all by yourself.
At
Just
home.
sitting in the corner.
At home.
You also could just go to the store, get 9 beers and a package of hot dogs, and
Yeah.
do it at home.
Right. Just do it by yourself.
If that's if you want to test the limits,
Yeah, test your ability.
Push it to the limit.
Push it to the limit.
Beat you.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, let's start with Todd.
All right, Lebo. This will be the first start Noah Cameron gets roughed up.
I don't know what your definition of roughed up is, but I'll say
I'll say
more than one run.
I'll say
Apparently,
4 more runs in 5 innings or less.
Fiction.
According to Q, roughed up is 4 base runners in 6 innings. Go ahead, Dylan.
I'll go fiction.
I'm going fiction, man. I can't put that out there in the ether, in the atmosphere.
Fiction, baby.
Todd, did you,
You
say
thought
fiction?
I said fiction.
Yeah. You thought I was going to be
Yeah.
a Debbie Downer.
No.
No, you're always
No.
upbeat.
Yeah.
So yeah, congrats. Everyone won.
All tied on 1. Dylan next up.
Dylan, Florida Panthers will win the Stanley Cup.
That's a fact.
Fact.
Yeah, I don't want it to be what it is.
That was
USA.
That was a
USA.
tough display for any Oilers fans last night. At some
rough.
point, like, we get what you're doing, but then at a certain point, it becomes very embarrassing.
Yep.
They needed to get the first 2 at home.
Yeah.
So
Sorry,
Edmonton has
Canada.
a bunch of issues with Florida because of the heat in Florida, they can only keep that ice so cold. So it's actually a tougher track for people that live in the northern areas.
How about that?
to
Sounds like an
skate
excuse
on.
Dylan's making.
No, I picked the Panthers a long time ago. I knew this was coming.
Good for you. Dylan's smart.
They did not need Brad Marchand and then got Brad Marchand. So that's like the Chiefs getting.
And he only needed like 50-something seconds.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Last night to put one in the net.
Take that, Canada and poutine.
Sure.
All right, we'll go
Poutine's
to Jason
Yep.
next.
I'll start.
Karloftis gets over 10.5 sacks this year.
Fact.
Fiction.
Fact.
Fact.
It's a fact.
I think he gets 11. We'll give him 11.
That's over.
Yeah?
So that's a fact. Dylan and I are tied.
Can
well,
we check
we're all
this
tied.
one? in
No,
9
we do
months?
not come back.
We
and
can check
it.
last week if you want to.
Check that.
One of them.
Lebo.
Yeah.
Rory McIlroy misses the cut.
Oh, no, fiction. He's not missing the cut. He's not winning, but he's not missing the cut.
Yeah, misses the cut's tough, but I'll fiction. They won't let their baby boy do that.
I'll go-
PJ would never allow that.
Baby boy.
I'll go fiction.
Y'all are wrong. It's fact. Rory is going to miss the cut.
We'll
if you
check
miss
this
it,
calling
on
it.
Friday.
What's the bet? Can
Calling
you
it.
bet on that?
Yeah, it's like plus 290, plus 300.
You know
After
what?
I heard him complain so much about it already, I'm out on him. I'm so out.
Well, who
a
is
lot of
there
people
going,
are.
this is awesome? Nobody's.
Yeah, it's U.S. Open.
Yeah, but don't complain about it. He has the whole point. Don't be a little soft.
Here's a fact,
That's
though.
why he skips media all the time.
I was going to
Yes!
say, that was my fact. Rory misses the cut and then misses his media session
Oh, that's
after
the
missing
easy
the cut.
fact. Easy fact.
All right, we're all tied at 3-3-2. So, Dylan, we start with you.
Bryson DeChambeau wins the U.S. Open.
Fiction. I'm just gonna take Scheffler.
Fiction.
Yeah.
Field. Field.
You love Bryson, though.
Wait,
loves
fiction
him.
is
But
not.
I'm saying
Fiction. I'm
fiction.
taking. Oh, I get what you
Fiction
mean.
is that you're just not taking Bryson.
I thought you were referring
He's
to me.
going to
as
say
the-
fact, I think, but it's fiction.
It's fiction. I actually have Colin Morikawa. Colin Morikawa.
Steady.
Colin Morikawa is second in driving accuracy
for him.
on tour, and I'm going with someone who can hit some
When
fairways.
Scheffler is in the field, I feel like that's maybe the easiest bet of all time.
It's like-
Like usually
Well,
it's Scheffler
what's the
versus
fun
field.
in that, man?
No,
Like,
I know.
a lot of people have been picking Bryson. Bryson, I think, actually is the lowest odds to win. I gotta maybe check that back up. Maybe it is Scheffler, but they were close 1 and 2. I like Colin Morikawa though. I really am going with driving accuracy, so going with Colin.
Keep it in the short grass.
Keeping the short grass because the tall grass looks bad.
4-4-3, we're all tied. I'll lead off.
We'll go to James Anderson.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin kicks more ass than the Rolling Stones.
Sure. Whatever. Fact, fiction, I don't know. Fiction.
Todd, please.
Boy.
I just wish
I mean,
Todd
I
was
love
first on
them
this
both
one.
so much. It's like two of my faves.
Only one of them made a lot of. I mean, they both made a lot of hits, but one of them is a cultural changing band. Has a magazine.
The answer is fact. Led Zeppelin rocks more ass than the Stones.
I'm going fiction.
Oh, it's Zeppelin. Zeppelin kicks more ass than the
Yeah.
Stones. Come on.
So is it fiction or fact?
Fact.
Fact.
You're
Oh,
wrong.
darn it.
No, he got it right. He said sure.
No, and then he said no
I
fiction.
ended up going
okay.
with I did not. I mean,
Led Zeppelin kicks so much ass.
so
dude.
it's 4-4-4. We're all
Have you
tied.
seen the Netflix? They put the Becoming Led Zeppelin
Yeah.
documentary up. You should watch that.
I'll check it out.
I saw it at the theaters.
Probably won't, but you know,
Awesome.
it's in the queue.
You could. You should. You should.
I could. I should. Coulda. Woulda.
I do like the Stones. I like the
coulda,
Stones
shoulda,
a lot, by the
woulda,
way.
woulda,
This is
coulda.
not a knock
That
on the
was a
Stones.
really tough.
Yeah, I like the Stones a lot. The issue is just that
Yeah.
Zeppelin just kicked so much ass.
Yeah.
So it's like prime Mike Tyson. It's gonna be an ass kicking.
I recommend anyone watching the Becoming Led Zeppelin doc that they just put on Netflix this week.
Nice.
Excellent.
Leaves,
Yeah.
barring injury. Okay. Juwan Taylor plays every game at right tackle this year for the
But
Chiefs.
what if someone gets hurt?
He said barring injury.
But what if someone got injured?
I thought you were being a smart ass.
injury,
I thought
like
you were
they
being
get
a
hurt.
smart ass.
Fact.
No, because somebody might get hurt. Not injured, but hurt.
Fact. He's playing them all. They're paying him. He's playing him. Paying him and playing him.
Yeah, I'll go facts.
Yeah, it's a fact.
It's a fact. Okay. I just wanted to check the room temp with you guys. I've seen a lot of folk say.
Steps offsides one time. You're out. We're putting Kingsley over there. No.
He's staying at right tackle.
I'm
unless he's
just
injured.
saying.
Or hurt.
I like it.
What if Josh Simmons is great?
How do we know if he's great?
And what if Jalen Moore's great?
How do we
What
know
you
if they're
do?
both great?
I'm just saying.
How do
Only
we
one
know
to
if they're
find out
great?
got to play him.
Yeah, you'd have to play him. So
And you got to play him.
yeah. Who
Okay.
knows? All right, Dylan. We're all tied at 5. Dylan up here.
My concern level, dude, with Salvador Perez is a 7.5 or higher out of 10.
This is our concern, dude.
Yeah, fact.
I'm gonna say fiction. I think you're at a 7.4.
Fact. 7.7.
Give Jason 2. 7.4 was actually what it was. I'm at a 7.4 with Sal.
Read them like a book.
You're right there.
Now I'm up 7 to 5 to 5.
7.4 to 5 to 6. What?
6 to
I'm at a
5 to 5.
7.4 out of 10 on the concern level scale for
so great.
Hey,
for
dude,
Salvi.
concern. What's it called?
My concern level, dude.
My concern level, dude.
This is our concern, dude. I'm up 6 to 5 to 5. We're all tied. I'll go first here.
All right, Anderson. Brett Veach was ranked the 5th best GM on a list.
Fact. It was.
He should be second.
Second or top 2?
Second. He could be
Now he
one,
made this
2, or
tricky,
3.
didn't
Yes,
he?
that's the whole
Yeah.
point.
He made it tricky.
You know what? You like to chant Eagles all the time, so I'll say fiction. You love Howie Roseman.
ELGSALM.
Hey,
I'm gonna say
Wayne Jones.
It's fact because you were giving Howie Roseman credit earlier.
see the opposite. I think that he hates how much credit Howie Roseman gets. So I'm gonna go fiction.
But he has to respect it. They
Yeah.
won.
Yeah, it's what it is. I hate it, but damn, do I respect it. It's how we won.
I got one.
It's how we won. Veach 2, Brad Holmes 3, gap. Less need 4, larger gap.
Oh, that American Eagle.
Where's Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones as a combo?
33rd, actually, somehow. It's
They're
crazy.
actually not bad at getting talent. It's keeping it and making it win on the field. They have good players.
So you can take the reservation. It's the keeping the reservation is the most important part.
I hate that, but what I like what the Eagles do with the cap and how they're able to manipulate it a little more than other
Void
teams.
years.
Maybe it
You
just
like the $60
completely
million
kills
in that
them.
money this year?
Maybe it completely kills them, but
Maybe.
I've been impressed.
7 to 6 to 5. Todd Lebo up.
Lebo,
Yes.
weed eating is actually worse
Like brownies?
than pulling weeds.
Fiction.
Yeah, that's easily fiction.
Yeah, that's fiction.
It's fiction, but it's close to me.
I think you wanted to say fact
I
until
don't
we all
think
said
it's
fiction.
not even close.
Pulling
Fiction.
weeds is the
Is-
worst.
The worst.
Pulling weed sucks, but weed eating really sucks when it's hot and you got to put jeans on because I'm getting rocks thrown back at my shins because I
you
have
have rocks in your
Don't
yard.
have to wear
no,
jeans.
because
that
you-
doesn't.
What, you got a gravel driveway when you're
No,
trying
but
to
I
edge?
have river rock in my backyard.
Well, you
Well,
got to
don't
get
get
bigger
river-
river rock.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna pay for it?
No?
No, you're going to pay for it.
It's expensive stuff.
You edging your backyard?
What do
around
you,
the river
you,
rock
think
too?
of a quarry? A quarry?
Sounds like you
My
know a quarry
backyard?
back there.
I mean, maybe you should have
I have
a
a quarry back
you should have
there.
a query about why you have that type of rock.
I do have a query about my quarry. I need a.
Nobody pulls weeds.
And also, you don't have to wear pants to weed eat it.
When you get hit with rocks in your
You'll be
shin,
all right.
I would say
This
it's,
is the guy who cut his foot over
It
advisable.
his
sucks.
own house.
It
so.
sucks.
I
but
forgot
it's
about that.
also-
Yeah, I
He's
did.
been hurt.
It's all right.
I'd say
I
advisable.
forgot about the foot cut situation. That was an incident.
That was pulling weeds though.
And that was walking around his house in the middle of the night.
Well, the house wasn't complete yet, and I stepped on a nail, and I didn't have a tetanus shot in like a while. And you got to hope and pray, baby.
Yeah.
If it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
876
that was
roll
a
tide.
tetanus-free nail.
That was a tetanus-free nail.
You always got to buy tetanus-free nails.
You got to buy those. Tough.
Yeah. You the pull and pray.
But you
got to
pay
wait
extra.
for that time.
You gotta pay extra.
Sometimes you got to pay extra for those things. You got lucky that time, but I wouldn't suggest going around and just hoping that it's a tetanus-free nail by not wearing any protection on your foot.
Hey,
Dylan
man.
leads us off. It's 8 to 7 to 6.
Shoes are a social construct. Royals will get 2 All-Stars in this year. Only.
Have we done
Ooh,
this?
only
All-Stars.
2. Okay, only 2.
Have we done this?
No, we've not.
We have not done this.
I'm gonna say, oof, man. I'm gonna say fiction because I think Garcia gets. I mean, I wonder if Bregman still gets in since it'll be a decent amount of time from his injury to the All-Star game. But I'm gonna say Garcia gets in. I'm gonna say fiction. They get 3.
Fiction.
What's your explanation?
I think it's going to be
Is that
true. I
it's
think
not
it's
fact?
2 position players, and they're going to get a pitcher.
I think they're gonna get
Yeah,
Bubich.
I mean, listen, if Noah Cameron, his ERA is under 1, he's going to be an all-star.
David Schoenfeld at ESPN put out his All-Star team currently and put out, quote, positional starting battles, and he had a couple of them. One was shortstop positional starting battle, Witt and Jeremy Pena, and he chose Witt. And then starting pitcher battle, he had Skubal versus Bubich to start the All-Star game. That's pretty legit. But we're going with 3. We all did the same thing. What's the answer?
The answer's 3.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we all
it
got
is
a point.
3.
9 to 8 to 7. We're all tied.
That felt too easy.
Last one.
This is the hardest one. I'm not
Okay,
making it a
great. I'll lead
bonus,
off.
but I figured why not make it a bonus because we can do a different bonus.
All right.
Shadur Sanders
Yep.
will start the most games for the Browns at quarterback this year.
Fiction.
Fiction.
Yeah, I'll go fiction.
I went fact.
Okay.
Did you really?
I don't think it's Kenny Pickett. I don't think it's gonna be Dylan Gabriel. If they're 2 and 6, they're pulling Flacco. The only
If Flacco starts, they're not going to be 2 and 6. You're talking about 6 and 2 probably.
Yeah,
It's
you
Flacco.
said those numbers wrong.
Yeah, I mean Flacco's starting. There's no reason for.
Is he
Shadur to
elite?
come in. Yes.
Super Bowl
You
champion.
can't spell elite without Flack.
how
Darn it.
many years ago was that now? 15.
10 plus.
You can't spell elite without Joe.
You know he's a Super Bowl champion.
10 years ago.
Well, what year was that actually? That may have been 12.
2012.
13.
Well, 2012, 13 it was.
Yeah,
it was in 2013.
don't even get me started with that.
I know.
It was in
Sorry.
13, but it was 2012
Season starts in a year, and they call it that.
9 to 8 to 7. We're all tied. That means we need a tiebreaker here, as we're all tied at 9 to 8 to 7.
Garden has been planted. Call me Gardener Minshew. What are the top 5 items to put in a garden?
In your own garden.
A garden.
Okay.
Any garden. Okay.
The
so,
garden here in the Midwest.
like a garden around
A
here,
garden
not
right
like
here.
in California.
And,
We're not growing lemons.
State laws. Or...
Yeah, we're not like I'm not putting like a
live in
watermelon
Kansas.
plant in there. I'm the
You live in
room for that.
Kansas,
right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not putting a watermelon
You live in Kansas.
vines. Yes, I do live in Kansas.
He lives on the state line.
Not
Half in, half out.
All right, we'll see what we're going
pull
next.
and play, pray.